Hey everyone, welcome back to some StarCraft 2 GSL time as well. We do have the first series, best of 3 of GSL Group A. I'm a little late to casting this because I actually just flew to Korea. So, not casting GSL in the studio, which would, still be really cool, but there's only like 6 studio broadcasts, so I'd feel bad about taking work from someone. But I do get to still cast them online now that I got my setup complete as well, which was a total headache, which I won't bore you guys with. But we do have our first match, which is quite a banger. In the top right, we do have Scarlett, and in the bottom left of Alcyone, I think, it is indeed Maru. So Maru coming in as the heavy favorite of the GSL because he's won the last 5 or something. However many titles he's got. Also, kind of generally, people have, noted that the quality, the competition of GSL, it has declined a little bit in terms of the initial starting groups as well. I think that's fair to say. Perhaps as you get to the semifinals and the finals, you still have the top-tier Koreans who absolutely represent in the international tournaments as well. But the expectation is that Maru gets out first, and gets eventually first. So Scarlett has one of her toughest matches to start things off. But fortunately, she can absolutely pop off in this particular matchup. She doesn't seem to have as many mental hangups as well as compared to perhaps EVP, which she can do really well in as well. It just, we kind of know her opinion more so on what happens there. But facing Maru must be a challenge in and of itself. Also, typically we contribute to the Koreans getting a bit of a home field advantage when it comes to GSL, even though Scarlett has lived in Korea, I want to say the majority of, maybe not the majority of the last 7 years, because COVID happened and every foreigner had to be kicked out, right? Unless they had a very good reason, a very strong visa, which pro gamers don't have. But anyway, she's definitely there a lot, and she's played in plenty of GSLs, but you can't really compare that to Maru, right? She's just in every single one. Also displaying that newfangled Terran versus Zerg. I got the 2 racks opener into a command center, so it is going to be macro. No super weird shenanigans to start things off. We're in the new map and the new patch, which is also being considered a bit more of a Terran patch. And whether you agree or not, it seems to be kind of where we are. But it really has not been tested, especially at this high quality. And that's kind of a bummer, actually. I've definitely talked about this on my own personal streams, that it's a bit odd at the once most prestigious, most competitive tournament in the world, the GSL, is actually kind of the testing ground. So we're going to see the maps displayed and the patch displayed before, for instance, the North American regionals. So we'll see if it really is Terran favored or not. But Maru, just whether or not a patch helps him, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. So Scarlett's got to be playing some of her best StarCraft to actually get past this best of 3 and into the winner's match. Of course, the GSL style group. Y'all know what that means. Y'all watch plenty of GSL. But yeah, we got ourselves a typical opener as far as the modern TVZ. Although it's kind of coming and going as far as whether or not this 2 racks opener really is going to be the go-to TVZ. Kind of feels like a lot of the Koreans are absolutely doing it, but then the European Terrans are kind of like 50-50 on whether they think it's the way to go. It is such a powerful opener in terms of how you can follow up with it. In this case, Maru chooses a 3cc 2-1-1, basically, with a couple of Hellions added in. I know that Beyond does do this build and adds in a Banshee, for instance, so a faster starport, of course. But yeah, the Hellions coming out can be a big difference maker. Even on a 3cc, this can be an odd amount of early game aggression, and has actually killed some Zergs in the past, this exact build with the 3rd CC. Just those Hellions popping out when you're expecting a straight up 2-1-1, a couple of medevacs coming over the side of the map and dropping. Suddenly the Hellions arrive, and the Lings, the pure Lings that you were depending on, aren't quite enough, not with the powerful combination of both. And in fact, turn this into a Hellbat attack, and, it's even better. It's even better. Lings alone will not do the trick. Of course, not always Lings alone. You do have Queens, and if that are going to be going up to 10 Queens, Scarlett has no idea what is following this up, trying to get the best information possible, which at this point is basically how many Marines do you have, and are you actually upgrading off of that tech lab. Otherwise, really shouldn't be getting that much intel as to what's going on. This is still pretty good, though. Seeing that it is Hellions, you will be fearful of Hellbats, too. You just don't really need the Hellions to kind of fill that gap of the early game like you would in another build with, of course, less Marines. So this is a very purposeful choice of the Terran player, and if it is so purposeful, well, they also might be purposefully adding on an armory. The Lings initially evacuated, now going after the tech lab, which they're going to get, so Maru getting the bad side of the map, just 50-50 for the Terrans, but when that happens, going to lose combat shields, and that's going to hurt the, I guess, the validity of this push. How long you can actually stay on the front lines, especially when 11 queens are all pulled together, and as much as queens are a bit of a tickle monster, when you have 11 of them and they're able to focus fire and there's no combat shields and so on and so forth, I mean, at the very least, they drain the medevac energy. And then the Lings might be in big enough numbers to come in and surround. So far, an excellent defense, just having the queens in position, immediately getting to replant the creep as well. Combat shields still going to be a decent timing. It's not that slow of an upgrade, but definitely a sour point for the start of this game. Scarlet actually not taking really any damage. Back to droning as well. It's got a lair finally finishing up. Banelings are a little bit worse than what they used to be. So that's something to consider, as we do have a typical bio versus Baneling game. The Baneling's speed will come out a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper, but those Banelings are missing their original health once Difficult Hook actually finishes. Banelings are still available nonetheless. If they get a couple of connections, they're as good as always against Marines. And we got a +1 Carapace on the way as well. Now, this actually looks like it's not on purpose. There we go. A fast +1 Carapace, and only +1 Carapace is a build, but this is not exactly fast. So that was just not clicking on the second evolution chamber, not quite having the gas, whatever it was. Scarlet's going to be on 5 hatcheries. No macro hatch necessary. She's being able to save all of her hatcheries and get a 5th up and running. Well, eventually, by the looks of it. But the point is that she doesn't have actually a problem with the larva, even as she's pulling queens. I mean, she has so many now. It's 13 queens. That's so many. They are creep sorting, they are injecting, and they are helping to defend. So get on ya. Another hatchery off to the right side. So in this case, if one of them does happen to be canceled, which is pretty likely, honestly, it's still going to be enough larva and enough economy as well. 5 hatcheries with some of the initial bases starting to deplete with 83 drones. Spore Crawler would have been nice to have, but does get sniped before completion. Queens are quick to the responses. Scarlet did see that kind of a mile away. Maru behind this going 3cc saturation at this point. Of course, he got that very early on in this game and is now just steamrolling ahead with as many Marines and tanks as possible, working off of 8 barracks. So this is actually a lot of production and rather dedicated as well. You do delay that second factory and, of course, the 4th command center, which is the alternative way of playing, the more macro way of playing, and perhaps even when it comes to Maru, occasionally turning that into a real turtle game. But this is all about the aggression. Hopefully, this was going to be a little bit more of a jab, jab, punch, but because that first engagement with the Hellbats didn't really do anything, Scarlet has had time to prepare for this. She's maxed out, so she has some difficult hooks. Hydras are out as well, adding in the DPS, so their upgrade's also a little bit cheaper. The Queens are, you know, sacrificing themselves, but for the greater good, tanking a lot of these shots, buying time, draining medevac energy, and Scarlet is just trying to get as much as possible before actually swamping in here. The swarm is coming in, but 3 tanks remain untouched. A couple of Banelings do get some connections, and the medevacs are on the majority on the right side, so they're not getting back to healing these Marines. But a lot of this fight off of creep maybe is a bit questionable for Scarlet if she is forced to pull back. She's got Hydras and Queens only right now. Lings flooding in, more Hydra reinforcements as well, but those Queens are out of transfuses. Clearly there's a lot less of them as well. Scarlet did have to give up this base off to the right side, but she is mining on the left with a rich Vespian geyser as well, I should note. So things are not over quite yet, but this is a tricky situation. All that creep now gone. Liberator sieged up with still 2 tanks, 3 tanks anchoring, excuse me. Medevacs, though, are out of juice, and the Banelings are coming in here. Not the fastest response from those Marines, and it looks like it's just not enough at this point. Lings and Hydras will be coming out to take care of everything else, and Maru not able to reinforce fast enough to take advantage. 20 extra Marines getting there just 5 seconds sooner would have taken great advantage of the lack of Banelings. It's always the scary thing when a Zerg player actually pulls the trigger, is that if they run out of Banelings and don't have backup because they need to just send the entire swarm at them, or they don't realize they're not making Banelings or whatever it is, if they're out of Banelings and there's still like 20 Marines left, It requires a lot of basic Ling Hydra to actually stop that. But the good news is, the map is just as long as it is. So Maru was a little late to the follow-up, and now the momentum completely stopped. This is going to give Scarlet a lot of room to breathe. Now, her 2-2 is still a problem, significantly later than Maru's, and Maru is trying to move on from the 8 racks, at least getting a second factory, and going to be soon, I believe, affording a 4th command center, but it's all about momentum when you do this, and this did not actually do all that much damage. As long as Scarlet was able to stop the snowball, then she would be pretty okay, because this complete reset on the movement of the army is a great chance for her to actually rebuild, re-creep, and then, well, maybe even get some technology, but that's certainly a long ways away. Infestation Pit only halfway done. Could get fungals instantly with those infestors now, but ideally more so you're looking at vipers from a hive, which you're just nowhere close to. And unfortunately, Scarlet has taken some poor trades on the top left, losing drones, but then also only Ling Hydra defending this Marine with 2-2. They've taken some poor trades. Maru's back up in supply and is back on the front lines. Creep spread really did not get all that far forward. Queen number is dwindling even further, and here we go. The lack of banelings are stuck behind the Hydras. Oh, but there they are, and on creep as well. Maru getting a little too gung-ho. Took some unnecessary hits to the face with the banelings. The tanks are still anchoring this, and if he was able to pull back off of creep a little bit faster, that would have been actually very devastating for Scarlet. I mean, now she's down to just pure Ling Hydra. The Hydra, some of them getting massacred, but Ling swelling in here. Gonna help take down the tanks, especially as the Marines were lifted. More reinforcements are here, however, and going off of creep, definitely not the way that Scarlet wants to actually play this, especially with the tanks so far out of range. A 4th command center actually was lifted. Okay, I was gonna say, I didn't see that being built. No, that is the main lifted over to the gold, which, I mean, Maru's attacking the same path that he's taking the gold base, so this is actually gonna work out defensively. But the production is still coming in from all the way back at home. Most of the barracks in the main base, the factory in the main base. Second factory does have a reactor, could be adding on widow mines, and of course drilling claws eventually as well. But this is not the ideal situation to be going up against a Zerg player that is on 6 bases, 87 drones, and again has a little bit of time to breathe. Once again, the momentum completely reset for Maru, and now even losing the pressure up to the top left base. Creep spread really does need to get back down, but this should help. Infestors immediately with fungal is a new thing in the new patch, and at the very least, even if the damage isn't the same as it once was and the range isn't the same, those two things got nerfed, you have that fungal instantly, and fungal is great at buying time. It's the threat that stops the Terran player from running straight into the Zerg army, but also great when the Terran player is not paying attention. Yeah. That actually might have been game-winning. That might have been game-winning. I think Maru did get sight on the infestors prior to that, but then just didn't realize that Scarlet would move so aggressively forward. But she saw an opportunity, and she did take it, and that was absolutely a GG moment. Maru losing game number 1 against Scarlet, and, I mean, some mistakes that I wouldn't necessarily expect from Maru. Maru seemed a little bit slower, a little bit more uncertain when he should have been certain, and certain when he should have been uncertain. You know, kind of misreading to a certain degree. But there is a few times where Maru's aggression on the 4th base of Scarlet might have won the game on a Maru that's playing absolutely perfectly. And instead, going a little too far forward, getting hit by banelings, then obviously the fungal just getting the perfect hit, Marines and medevacs all getting destroyed. It was not a great setup for Maru. So, I mean, Scarlet, after the first pushback, was in a pretty good place, but the second pushback really, I think, gave a lot of confidence to move over into hive technology, for instance, give her time to match up those upgrades as well. And the fact that she was consistently reinforcing and remaxing was also quite good, despite always pulling her queen to try and do something with them defensively. So, well played from Scarlet, and a bit of a surprising twist to start off Group A. See what happens in game number 2. Game 2 is going to be on Site Delta. In the top left, we do have Scarlet. In the bottom right, it is Maru. Maru not able to execute the strategy start to finish as well as he was hoping. Started off with the, well, 2 racks, I guess, but the 3 Reapers don't ever usually do that much. But more so, starting off with the Marine Hellbat attack that had combat shields denied thanks to the placement of the buildings. In the same situation, the same opener, the fact that Maru spawns bottom right in this map would have meant those combat shields are never in trouble. The real problem with Terran, guys. But then also not able to get Scarlet out of position, because, you know, if her queens were still spread around and still creep spreading where they weren't defending, and if they were caught off, like 2 go down, then they're pulled, like that really does help the snowball. One of the first line of defenses of a Zerg player, till about minute 6 or 7, I guess, is having queens in position, having them all collected and in position, and a decent number of transfuses on them as well. And then after that point, we're usually talking about more Marines, tanks, Widow Mines, and of course Queens are just more of a stopgap. They just buy some time, then they are a major crucial point of defense. But up until 6 or 7 minutes, yeah, that's kind of the skill check, actually. And maybe you still need to produce a decent number of lings in case that doesn't work out. But, you know, Zerg pros have gotten pretty good at it. I mean, it's kind of almost the same. It's not equivalent, but it's pretty much the same idea, I would say, defending a pure Hellbat attack. Obviously, Maru adding in 14 Marines, I think. He didn't quite max out on 16, but with Stim adds a punch to the face that Hellbat attacks don't, but it's still a similar idea. You have especially the number of queens that Scarlet built up, and it pulled together. I mean, the transfuses alone will buy so much time. But anyway, now we have Maru with a forward single Rax. This is something that Scarlet is not going to be able to see. Oh. But nonetheless, seeing as it is only 2 Marines, there is some amount of guesswork that could happen there. Obviously, it's not Reapers, so it's less inclined to be that opener that we've been seeing. And then the timing of the 2 Marines would work out with 1 Marine, then 1 Marine. Right? Because that's literally what it is. So not reactor first and 2 Marines or anything like that. Or 2 barracks producing only Marines would have given us 4 Marines, right? Like, maths, which Scarlet might be able to pick up on as well. It's also isn't the first time that we've seen Maru or any Korean Terran do this variation of the opener. I think goooooo actually does this too. But it's just something to really trip up. You know, if they are cheesing you, which I don't really think is great anyway, but this could be a good defense, a solid start, even as the Terran doesn't scout, they just blind bunker. We've definitely seen this. The trick, though, is that, again, what is the follow-up? So in this case, we even have such fast Marine production, there is 0 chance that an Overlord gets in to scout that it's a 4 Rax follow-up. Where if you start with 3 Reapers and then add Marines, if you add Marines, there's a bit of a there's a chance, basically, that a aggressively placed Overlord who's depending on you opening up the Reapers will actually scout this. But it's not even a guarantee they follow up with Marines to deny the scout even after Reapers. So Marines first, you're not going to be able to get an Overlord in, you shouldn't get a Ling in, obviously. And so 4 Rax follow up, one of the quickest ways to follow up with the most killing potential. You know, Hellions often don't kill the Zerg, although they can effectively do so if they kill all the drones. Banshees typically not doing that, but a bunch of Marines in the early game with a popped stim, they have a chance to literally end the game in a second. But it really is a quick turnaround if they don't. If they pop the stim because they think they have a moment, they get surrounded, they get hit by banelings, it's a complete loss of map control, very late technology for the Terran player, obviously their economy's not great either, and then it's questionable. But you know, we know that with other variations of this build, because the 4 Rax isn't totally new, that you don't have to pull the trigger on stim. You can size up the Zerg player and go, you know what, I think they figured it out. I think that they're maybe just guessing. The worst case scenario is me not knowing a 4 Rax, so that's what I'm going to defend against, but they're right in this case. So I'm just not going to pull the trigger. And then map control could still be a big important point, and they can't sometimes macro out of this, especially as the Zerg player has also suppressed their economy to compensate for the defense. We have Maru kind of clearing out Overlords, giving Scarlet a bit of confusion, like how many Marines does this guy actually have? It's going to be an SCV pool as well, so of course with the SCV pool, this is just entirely all in, no what-ifs about it. Scarlet, without any Baneling, is going to struggle to defend against this, but once again, building a decent number of Queens. 51 drones is, I mean, a little sketch and a 4th hatch that obviously is not going to get up and running, but let's see what happens. She knows what's on the way. She's going to try and buy some time, more reinforcements. So their queen will pop out, 20 more lings. I'm going to try and get the best around possible as well, but that's where the SCV is going to try to body block. No queens dying yet. There we go. 2 queens dying. They are just on the run. Not going to be helping out with the DPS at all. And now every single queen has been corralled and taken down. Also an overlord. Scarlet is a little supply blocked or close to it. She actually is building for overlords, though. She had the money to do so, but not enough larva to spend it purely on lings. That could be a bit of an issue, but I guess it's better than being supply blocked. +1 carapace was kind of a pipe dream anyway, so no surprise it was canceled. A couple of queens helping out. The ling surround coming in. SCVs just hold positioning to try and block out that surround. Now on the attack move, many Marines still left over, but more lings coming in here. We're still the queens helping out, and it looks like Scarlet will just barely hold against the all-in from Maru, which means she's gonna 2-0 the GSL winner. The GSL winner. That's a pretty powerful start in a GSL group. Maru is pretty screwed. That was completely all in. I'm a little surprised after not affecting the drone lines that this guy's actually still in the game. It'd be different if drones were also pulled. Then there's a weirdness that can happen. But the drones were pulled, I think, just defensively. They were pulled off to the left. So, yeah, Scarlet's really not too phased here. Able to rebuild the queens, actually even banking once again. She's not larva injecting, so, you know, there was a chance, I guess, to follow up and hopefully, you know, catch the Zerg really super larva blocked, but that hasn't happened here. She's only a little. And Maru is still not going to tap out. I'm a little surprised. Maybe because online, Maru's definitely more of a Terran who will tap out maybe a little bit too early, arguably, than a little bit too late. But when it comes to these offline tournaments, I think that he does kind of moderate and go into the average of, you know, tapping out pretty much at the right time you would expect. But now, going a little bit over. I mean, not quite fantasy GG, but like, it's... There's really a very, 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 very slim chance that Maru can recover this. Even Maru, who is, you know, one of the world's best Terrans, and many people would say that he is. He's just so slim because of the 60 to 120 seconds that follow up the all-in. Alright, there's a chance that Scarlet didn't have larva and that she was droning for whatever reason, that she didn't like, kind of consider a follow-up. But obviously that didn't happen. And then after that, there's really no hope. She can both produce drones and army without really fearing that she's gonna fall as a Zerg player does by doing one more than the other, because Maru's in a terrible position. She can do both. In this case, she's gonna go ahead and all-in herself, kind of. I mean, but it's hard to call an all-in when she has so many more ways to follow this up than Maru had with his SEV pull. But here we go. That is finally going to be it, cutting the head off of Maru for him, basically, because his head was already kind of like, you know, was already kind of chopped anyway. But she will, in fact, get that 2-0 to start off GSL. I mean, people were saying this would be her toughest challenge. Other people in this group, though, include Solar as well as Creator. So, you know, ZVZ could be a challenge, and then Creator can actually do really well in PvZ, and especially with the patch at least affecting that pretty substantially. I mean, most people would still say that Maru was a Ritter's challenge, but she demolishes him. Almost easy peasy lemon squeezy. So she's gonna head to the winner's match, and Maru is gonna have to fight it out in the losers. And the second series has begun, once again starting off on the map that is impossible to pronounce, Alcyone. In the top right, it is Creator. In the bottom left, it is Solar. I'll remember it one day. I've got Hecate down. But Alcyone just still doesn't compute with my brain. Anyway. So Creator, I believe, has a better chance with this new patch in PvZ. The reduction of the one-shot from Banelings when they get +2 melee on probes to now two-shotting them. It's pretty big. It is pretty big. That is assuming, of course, that we get to kind of a more saturated 3-base to 4-base stage, and we actually get to +2 melee. But yeah, that is a pretty big difference. Otherwise, I'm not sure if there's a strong opinion on the map pool in terms of its balance when it comes to this matchup. TVZ and TVP, I think, basically Terrans, I guess, usually get a little more discussion because of tank abuse spots and rally pushing and their aggressive nature and whatnot, but I'm not sure what their opinions are on the maps, but I'm pretty sure that Protoss is, well, maybe unhappy with the changes and the attempts to fix PvT. I think are generally okay with the focus of the ZVP. And Zerg players are just, I mean, there's not. I mean, Terran really has the most fun with this patch. So anyways, but yeah, so in terms of the patch, I don't know if it's going to affect it enough, but I will say that that +2 Baneling, no longer one-shotting probe, should be a pretty big difference when we get over that 6 or 7 minute mark in this matchup, or 8 minutes or something like that. So, in terms of the actual players we're witnessing, I mean, Solar has, I think, more highs. Creator, he gets to a decent place, and when we start to cheer for him, we start to really believe in him, and we're like, oh my god, he's finally gonna do it. You know, for the decade that he's been playing StarCraft 2, he's kind of been this Protoss who's been on the verge of being the next best, but then gets stumped. Finds his opponent to be his nemesis in the round of 8, so he just gets hard stopped when a bit of bracket luck would have helped him out. Or sometimes his emotions would get the better of him, but I do believe he's fixed that in the last few years, actually. He does still get emotional, don't get me wrong, he still pounds the desk and all that, but I just don't really see it as much impacting his actual play. We'll see him do that, but then actually play pretty much as you normally would, even as he starts to get frustrated, or even giddy. You know, sometimes he's screaming excitement. Solar has gotten a little bit farther, but then I would say it gets kind of like that bad luck streak that we talk about with Solar a little later on in the tournament. So Creator might get hard stuck against a Nemesis, or he might just have a couple of really bad plays that instantly KO his chances before he really makes it into the round of 4 or the finals. Solar, you know, basically I would say gets that Nemesis or the bad luck in like the round of 4. A little bit more often. Neither player really expected to win the GSL, but or even necessarily get to that round of 4, which has been a struggle. You know, TVT, right? But I would say Solar kind of has, like, an on average a little higher, but I actually don't know what their direct head-to-head is. Both these players, I believe, play, you know, sometimes in the Open Cups, but not as reliably as, say, Dark and Hero, which happens all the freaking time. We do have some Lings on the way and a shield battery with a Void Ray being produced, so it looks like Creator was a little concerned about an attack. Now, with 3 Adepts, he's actually fine, so this might have just been a misread. Maybe even a forced one? I'm not sure, but... Or he actually just might... I mean, the Void Ray coming out isn't necessarily totally only used for defense, and we've been seeing this, I feel like, more often, too. The Void Ray coming out as the harasser, overlord killer, obviously. And then, yeah, good defense if it is necessary. It's the shield battery. Oh, that was a pylon that I'm just completely dumb about. Never mind. I thought that was a shield battery. I guess I'm just not used to seeing such a fast second pylon in the natural, because usually the, well, what is it, like the... like the 4th pylon, I guess, would go over on the 3rd nexus, but not with the Lings taking a little bit map control, I guess is what happened. My bad. My bad. Anywho. I was also trying to get some stats on their head-to-head, but... Oh, there we go. And Legiolac wasn't working. It's taking a sweet time. Missing some Lings dying, nothing super important, as it is actually turning into a macro game. Twilight Council and Forge on the way for Creator, more drones for Solar, and the Void Ray and Oracle still trying to do little bits of damage. Void Ray actually misses an Overlord all the way to the right, but that's fine. So it looks like they are, yeah, very heavily, it's very, very heavily favored for Solar. More so than I was expecting. I did think it was favored, but in matches... There's like a 70% win record for Solar against Creator. Whoops. Yeah, that's, Alright then. Looks like the Oracle did a little bit more damage. Stasis Trap coming in as well. Solar once again making some Lings, try and get some control over, I guess, the transfer. Because this is a little bit awkward as far as going to that natural to the 3rd. Shield battery plus 3 Adepts again, and an Oracle. That's going to be perfect. It did go eventually into triple Oracle, by the way, which... I guess they've just been split up from the beginning. I am on a single PC, single monitor setup right now, so... Definitely not as agile when it comes to doing multitasking. But anyways, triple Oracle, harassing multiple bases at this point. So far, well now, I guess just doing stasis traps. But overall, 6 drones have died, 17 lings, and an overlord as well, which really should be 2 overlords. Oh no! Hey, how'd that happen? I was just gonna say, Creator playing some mighty fine PvZ, but then lings do enter into the natural. Now they actually... I mean, they're combating the zealots here, which aren't even charge lots. You know, that was actually a bit odd. They didn't shift Q on the main base and then shift Q on the probes, given the opportunity. That was one of the easier holds of a decent ling run by when you have a less mobile army. Because again, not even that you don't have blink, you just didn't even have charge. Huh. Well, that's good news for Creator then. 4th base is on the way for him as he moves out, so Solar probably not going to be able to send lings over there to get a quick cancel. Could at this exact moment then maybe return home, but nope. Already used so many of those lings in the attempted run by, they didn't work out. And now forced to just defend this push, not exactly knowing how dedicated it is. I mean, you kind of do, actually. The scout did the scout did happen, even if the lings maybe had more potential. Or maybe they didn't check this bottom. I mean, maybe. But the point is, like, you would see generally, like, oh, there's not that many gateways. This isn't going to be like a super dedicated attack. And then, again, having Ling scout this 4th base also would have been nice a bit faster, because if they were a bit faster, they would have been able to kill this pylon and then maybe get a cancel on a more budding Nexus. Say la vie. Zealots are warped in and will barely win the fight. Reinforcements coming anyway. But that really wasn't a huge push. Solar did start to respond by building army. It was only roaches, but it was still an army. But it was after he already made it to 79 drones, just adding a couple of buildings right there. So it's not like he overreacted. And at this point, now curious as to what Creator's plan actually is, and that scout would have been good if it was in the natural, seeing the robotics base, sure, but then also a Stargate coming out. We are on 2 Stargates and no fleet beacon, disruptors and Phoenix. Interesting. Huh, okay. That is very interesting. Static defense coming up here, Creator. At, you know, it's very typical supply for this hold. Especially if they get another warp in. Stasis traps plenty, warp prism from Micro, disruptors placed in cautious, kind of sneak surprise positions. Solar not going to go for the push. He had all of the technology behind him anyway. +1 missile is on the way, Overlord speed, but also Infestation bit finished, so Hive and Aspire clearly setting his sights on a greater Spire play, which Creator is going to be more than willing to deal with. I mean, I was a little hesitant to believe in the Phoenix's help when it came to a big swell of Ling, Baneling, Roach, Ravager, but obviously already having 2 Stargates and maybe being able to afford a 3rd plus a Fleet Beacon, I mean, that would set him up really nicely to deal with a greater Spire. Here comes the actual ground-based push, just a little bit later. Creator now with even a bit more supply in his pocket. Did lose a disruptor off the bat, but very calmly taking care of this, while even expanding further to a 5th base that, once again, Solar not getting any lings on. Okay, here they go. Might just be able to get that cancel. Yep, most likely. Creator, hello? No? Oh my god, Solar. Oh my god. Oh, Creator. You know, the speed at which he's setting up his foundation, his economy, and his static defense is quite impressive. It's going to really help him, even if he does take a bit of a burst in the mineral line. Disruptor shot right there. I was going to say that maybe the Banelings still do threaten the probes, but if you're on 5 Nexus, even if those 20 probes go down, which is kind of typical, even as you hold the attack from the Zerg player, it is still so likely that the probes will take the brunt of the damage. A little less likely now that the +2 missile doesn't kick in, and not that they had +2 missile anyway, but still. And that didn't happen. Creator really controlled that well, using the space, static defense, and just critical units to the best of their abilities. And Creator now has that Fleet Beacon, now going into some carriers, and Solar really doesn't... He's out ahead of the curve here. Finally going to be able to scout that, as he does see the Fleet Beacon at the last possible second. But now what is Solar's plan? Well, you don't necessarily have to change your plan, it's just that the Greater Spire will no longer be a surprise. It's no longer like, oh boo, I have 12 Broodlords on your front, when you didn't even realize I was going for that, which has happened. It's, I'm now morphing Broodlords into your carriers. So, obviously I can't just make Broodlords, I gotta make both Corruptors and Broodlords. I gotta start worrying about, you know, my upgrades for the air as well, because most often, The Protoss player, while investing into the fleet beacon, also starts up a +1 air. Not in this game, to be fair, but, you know, usually. And actually that is missing right now for Creator. You know, it's excusable to a certain extent, especially if you're defending something, then you're using all your resources to defend. Sure. But clearly it's not the case anymore. There's definitely room. Has been room. There we go, to get that +1 air. There it is. I mean, honestly, Carrier's a lot less effective without that extra damage. Interceptors, they're not particularly good at fighting, but they fight a lot. They have a lot of shots. So when the upgrades really kick in. Not to mention, some of these carriers are going to be fresh. So, again, a little bit worse. They're not the scary Skytoss air army quite yet, but this isn't a great start for Solar, who takes a battle against Avoider with Psionic Alignment and the help of the Phoenix. Really made it to the Corruptors at a little bit more trouble, but it looks like Creator will eventually get destroyed. Corruptors with that high natural armor, you know, they are set up well to do good against something that attacks soft but fast, like a Phoenix. There was 3 Void Rays and a Phoenix, and that would have been completely different. More Disruptors going down. Creator coming in with his reinforcing ones. Gonna get a decent shot to start off, and the other one is also decent, but there's really not much more. And I feel like Solar was just anticipating more army coming through, but it was a little bit late. Definitely could have gotten the Banelings at least on top of the cannons, or on top of the probes. Maybe he was a bit distracted. Maybe more reinforcements came in, I'm not sure, but yeah, comes back, now building up them Broodlords, 7 of them to start things off. We got the new Mama ship on the way. I like what people are calling it the Auntie ship. It's a little less big, and just, I mean, I don't really get why they made it the way that it is, but it does come out faster and cheaper, and it's no longer a, it's no longer a spell thing, it's a cooldown thing, yeah. But, you know, you also have to cast your cloak, which is a little obnoxious. And they ruined the meme. It's no longer 400, 400, 300, 300. Ruined it. +2 air weapons, at least now, as on the way as fast as possible. You know, the +1 was a little bit late. +2 getting chronoed as well. We got Storm, we got shields, which are a little bit cheaper. Also armor. If Creator ever gets armor on his air, a little bit cheaper too. Solar is finally getting his +1 carapace for his own Corruptors and Broodlords, as well as another Spire for further upgrades. They also got cheapened upgrades. Cheaper upgrades for everyone, except Terran, which is fine. 6th Nexus. Feels like Creator was able to slip in a 4th, slip in a 5th, and now, well, it's maxed out, so 6th is kind of understandable, but up until this point, I kind of felt like Creator got away with a little bit more than you would expect, especially with the Zerg's mobility, but has been able to defend those things after they got all the stack defense set up, right? It was a lot easier. And Solar is actually the one with a lesser bank to his Protoss opponent. Not always the case, not always at all. Some further development on the map as rocks are being broken down. We might eventually get these minerals mined out too, opening up bigger gaps along the midpoint. You can see it's blocked out until that is broken or the minerals are mined out. I guess he broke this anyway. We got all of the kind of miscellaneous upgrades, the ones that you don't really get until you were banking tons of money. War Prism speed, Observer speed probably going to be on the way. I'm a little surprised we don't have a second 7X score. This game's clearly not ending anytime soon, and it's clearly emphasizing this Skytoss versus Sky Zerg battle, so I'm always a little weirded out when Protoss don't bother with the second 7X score. Especially now that the upgrades are cheaper. I mean, if that was the reason before, it just feels like there's no reason now. Ah well. Fungals do come out immediately. Neuroparasite still is locked behind an upgrade, though, and that is on the way. So many upgrades, in fact, are on the way for Solar, but it's time to tango right here, right now. Broodlords and Corruptor is getting splashed. Feedback on the Viper as well. And it looks like no Fungal came down either. This one has it, but it just didn't get cast. Not that I think there was a good reason to cast. I mean, besides slowing down the army and buying time, but I mean, there was actually no direct fight that Solar really wanted to take. I don't think his army is quite set up to tackle this, and he definitely agrees. He's kind of just looking to posture a little. I'm not even sure why he's keeping his army here. I know Broodlord Corruptor's not exactly the fastest army ever, but this is clearly not going to win against Creator's Skytoss. He had so much army still in ground that was going for a counter or run by. And yet Solar's air army chose to stick around. Maybe he just acknowledged he was kind of dead no matter what. But that was certainly a better game there from Creator. His real only big mistake was letting Lings into his natural, and then even then, you know, it wasn't necessarily his response that was so amazing. Because he had slow zealots. It's not like he could respond all that quickly. It was Solar's kind of misplay of it a little bit. Well, Creator definitely playing some good PPC. So he will win game number 1, but that is not the best of 3 over quite yet. Let's get into game 2. Game 2 is going to be on Hecate, which I absolutely have got nailed down. In the bottom left, it is Creator, and the top right, it is Solar. Another bit of a twist to start off this preliminary match. The first one had Scarlet 2-0ing Maru, but even with the first victory, it was already a little bit of a surprise, and then just being able to close it out 2-0 was incredibly impressive. But, you know, looking up their stats, I thought Solar was favored. I didn't realize how favored. Generally 70%-ish against Creator. It's a good amount, but Creator's coming in swinging. And it's not like this has recently changed overall, too. Like, okay, well, in the past, it was that high of a win record, but most recently, Creator's been winning more often. I guess he's winning more often compared to some of his huge loss streaks against Solar in previous years, but nonetheless, still won the last 2 times that they met. So, you know, Solar, if you bet that he was going to win game 1 of the overall series, it was not a bad bet. But he still has the series to play out, of course, so things could change. Creator does manage to grab, you know, games, obviously. But to grab series, especially one of the more important series of his career, would be a excellent and still, again, a little surprising start for him, too. It'd be a bit of a weird world where Scarlet and Creator are the guys who make it through first and second, and not Solar and Maru, but I mean, it could happen. Could happen. I would still, even at this point in time, say that I think Maru and Solar are going to win, but thing is, Solar doesn't win against Creator. He's got to go face Maru in the lower bracket, so, you know, only one person can win that, so there's only so much excusing your kind of first best of 3 going poorly when you get put up against Maru in the lower bracket, especially when it comes to Solar versus Maru too, who also have an extensive history of Maru just kind of beating down on the poor guy. Would be pretty cool, though. I think a lot of people are cheering a little bit for the underdogs, but then also a little bit of fan favorite to a certain extent. Well, for Creator, for obviously a large extent for Scarlet. Lots of fans for her. So definitely a lot of cheering going on, I'm sure, in the studio at that point in time as well. I was still flying in the air, so I didn't get to attend that group. But Creator, you know, versus Solar, as far as fan favoritism, I mean, I think it's arguable. Solar's got the whole English thing going on, always been able to communicate and be funny and, you know, cast even a little bit of Home Story Cup. But then Creator really has, I think, won over a lot of people with his passion. Sheer passion. Everyone loves seeing someone who actually shows a bit of passion, especially if they're still overall a very nice player and very respectful and all that. And I think in general, Protoss have also gotten kind of a label as the underdog that people are just kind of hoping. Right, so yeah, perhaps for the entertainment factor, Creator and Scarlet both making it out would certainly be a twist. Let's see what's happening in this game. Creator is going for a bit of an auto opener, the least likely tech option, with a Robo coming out in a robotic space. So we're gonna have some. We could have Disruptor drop into Disruptor Colossus push. I feel like that's an old build, but to be completely honest, outside of the GSL, there really aren't that many ZVPs, well, that aren't Dark versus Hero online. The European Open Cup is a lot of TVP or TVT, and then North America, kind of the same, actually. And then there's Hero versus Dark, which, you know, is its own brand of PvZ. But yeah, it is going to be what looks to be, I mean, at the very beginning anyways, that build. Whether or not it goes up into a kind of 2-base pseudo all-in is another question. So they're recognizing the starts as being more aggressive than not. Like, where's your 3rd base, pal? Where are you gonna, why aren't you trying to take it? What's going on here? Sends the Overlord in, and we'll be able to see the robot. I mean, already sees the Disruptor. There you go. But then seeing again whether the follow-up is more aggressive than not, that's a different question. 6 Adepts, actually, instead just the 4. Gonna look to harass a little bit to start things off. The Disruptors are still back at home, so clearly that's not really gonna pair up with anything quite yet. The Adepts are completely denied. Probably better he just kept it at 4 and then went home as well. 2 Disruptors now picked up by the War Prism. There we go. Gonna start harassing Colossus number 1, and could be the only one coming out in this game. Are we gonna see that Gateway burst is the question. Solar trying to get a read on what's going on. Still no 3rd base from his opponent. Knows the Disruptors will soon be harassing. And then just once it gets psyched on the follow-up. 2 Disruptors. I mean, grab 1 Queen. But that is all they can grab. Twilight Council and a Forge are on the way, still on 2 bases. But a Forge definitely indicative of a macro game. 3rd base is going to be on the way. This Ling will spot out the intentions. It could be a fake. You don't want to just go rely on that alone. But it does look pretty real now as it tries to really try to get that 3rd base down. 1 Colossus is an anchor defensively. Very good against someone purely dependent on Lings currently, but Roaches are going to be on the way. No Extend Thermal Lance still started up. Creator just going for that single Colossus. Now focusing more on his Twilight Council. Disruptor's going to try and get some drone damage. Pretty unsuccessful in that endeavor. The Creator has played a nearly flawless game, which is always a nice feeling, even though it doesn't really matter much in this matchup. It sounds more impressive than it is. Solar has gotten up to 3 base, 60 drones, now looking towards the 4th, and more drones are on the way, especially as he recognizes that follow-up's not going to be particularly swift. There is a follow-up attack, but it's really not. It's entirely dependent on using range and force fields to actually scare the Zerg. But we're still only on 3 gateways. Investments made into technology that's not yet here. The Overseer is about to confirm that, so Solar should know this isn't really the most serious thing. But 5 drones nonetheless went down to further harassment, as Solar just can't really engage upon this army, not with the Colossus, not with the force fields. So Creator takes advantage of that, burns up some creep tumors, and then uses it as a distraction for a little bit of damage. Here we go, trying to actually get on top of this. The Colossus moves out of the way. No force fields coming down, though. I mean, they're already surrounded, I guess, but... So maybe not the best move out, but able to safely retreat. Really the most important thing, with the Colossus still intact, and now the Disruptor is coming back home. This really isn't the biggest army from Solar either, right? Like, he's not all leaning too. So it was kind of just enough to match each other's presence on the map. Being thrown across the map isn't going to find a lot of success, not with the Friend's advantage, the length of the map, the shield battery overcharge, all that good stuff. But you can see why Solar thought there was an opportunity. That shield battery just barely saving the Colossus. And if Solar was then able to swell with Ling reinforcements, well, they come across pretty quick. And that might have snowballed a little bit more. But it did not, and Solar... Now is on 4 bases, 60, well, he was on 60 drones. Now up to 75, 76 as they get pumped out. Going up to 5 bases very soon, anyway. War Prism still being as active as possible, and Creator really got to give kudos to how active this Disruptor drop is, because also being able to respond defensively at pretty much the perfect time, pretty much, not exactly perfect, but good enough, is also really important. It's very, very easy for even professional Protosses to not be as consistent with the harassment from the War Prism, but then also to be completely out of place with it. You know, kind of forget it as they panic back at home, or even send it back across the map over a main base, so into the awaiting arms of Queens. That happens all the time. So Creator's doing pretty well here. Where the hell did it go? Did it get recalled? You might just... Where is it? What is happening? Oh, well, that's weird. How did I even... What the... Where'd it go? Oh, okay. I think recalled. I was like, well, this is not great for the map, but okay. And a Disruptor died? Disruptors is left at home. 4 bases for Creator. He has Blink and +1, now working on +2 and Charge. DT's also getting warped in, possibly for Archons. I think he's just kind of waiting in case that is necessary. And if it's not, might go for a Strike Team. Strike Team Alpha. Solar's army, majority in the bottom right. I'm not sure why. Got distracted by something? Not sure. We're talking about a very large map. I think the rush distance is fairly large, but then just more so the left to right, the actual dimensions of the map quite large. So even a Zerg army full of Lings will have trouble going from all the way to the right to defend their base to attacking the Protoss's left 4th base. That's a good chunk of time. Stalkers doing great moves, being just out in the map, trying to be scouters, as well as, I guess, the first wave of defense. But oh no, charge! Damn you, charge! Now a bunch of Lings getting into the main base. We're going to be forcing a warp in there. Fortunately, has the warp in, as well as enough units, it looks like, defensively at the 4th, along the choke to the natural, too, to not make this a big deal. This was handled rather well. 9 probes go down, totally recoverable when you've got 4 bases. DTs and Zealots able to help out synergy. And I don't think we had a lot of, whoopsie-daisy, we had a lot of big units die either in that case. In fact, none. No Disruptors or Colossus died. So now Creator, almost maxed out himself with the Warp Prism on the offensive, is going to go for that counterattack. I mean, Solar had just completely pulled back to the wave of attack, so it's a pretty good green light. Creator's going to take advantage of it. Continue warping in. DTs for Archons, of which he has 4. Could go up to, actually, even 6. He could go up to a lot more Archons. Or he could, again, use these DTs to strike, but it's a little weird just keeping them as DTs. Well, as long as they have Overseers, obviously. A little awkward for them. And Solar's having a tough time really approaching this army. He's set up his biggest around, however, and that's his best chance, but is it going to be good enough? Stalkers blink away from the Banelings, but there's just so freaking many of them that most of the Stalkers do get destroyed, but look at this, so many Archons left over. That Colossus, the OG single Colossus, helping out a tremendous amount, and the fact that Warp Prism lived through that to help pick up Disruptor and warp additional charge, even a Hallucination Archon, ooh, nice touch, has meant that Solar just used every bit of his army on trying to completely get rid of that, completely reset the attack, did not do so. And even leaving a good amount of very, very powerful units left over. That is bad news for someone who is still forced to, of course, reinforce with Ling, Roach, and maybe Ravager if they've got time. Baneling number is back up and running at the very least, but no Ravagers. Certainly not going to be able to get to that higher technology like a Viper despite having Hive. Greater Spire also done, but the plan's kind of been ruined here. Solar not going to get that time necessary to move on technology-wise. Had that gotten a little bit better, had Creator been forced to pull back and lick his wounds and come back, Solar would have had time to produce even at least 6 Broodlords against this army, especially after all those Stalkers died. You know, that's a real power move right there. Even though we've seen some, you know, miraculous holds or pushes with Archons before. But instead, we're at this position where Solar, of course, had to be more wary of the army on his front doorstep, did not get that time to go into Broodlords. Weirdly enough, Creator playing a little bit cautiously, arguably, right? Like, theoretically, Solar could have, if he knew for a fact that Creator was going to do this. But then you could also argue that Creator is scouting with this Observer with the Stalkers and seeing the remax of Ling, Baneling, Roach, Ravager, so knows he's not on a timer. Creator has taken some damage back at home to Ling and Baneling run-bys. 13 probes have gone down, but again, very recoverable with 4 Nexus. I don't think a 5th base is on the way. Creator could be in a little bit of trouble if he really doesn't do anything and his insides go home, but even his presence on this side of the map is a real problem for Solar, who, by the way, lost their Baneling Nest. Has had time to at least rebuild the Ravagers, but the amount of Archons that Creator has built up now is very impressive. 10 Archons with +2 attack, and a Colossus helping to anchor as well. Zealots going after Solar's extra 5th base, or whatever you want to call it. 4th base is completely evacuated. What army defeats this many Archons? Either 5 Roach Ravager armies or a Broodlord army, which Solar just could not get to. But it really is unfortunate, because if he had known for a fact that Creator was going to play a little more cautiously and again popped out even 5 Broodlords, but in a really good position, that's something that, you know, is more helpful than the army that we're currently seeing, I suppose. Because this army needs to be 4 armies. It needs to go for the attack, remax, go for the attack, remax, and it can't do that when Creator is on your side of the map. It's do or die right here. And Creator is in a bit of an awkward position, but the Warp Prism helping him micro the Archons and Colossus. Left over to the right to help merge the 2 Protoss armies to collapse in on the Roach Ravager, and that is going to be that for Solar's army. The Archon still standing strong, even as Creator's supply dips a little bit. The actual army supply and quality is so much better for the Protoss. And Solar now has all of his reinforcement points blocked by his opponent's army, and that is going to be it. Creator, with the 2-0, we'll head into the winner's match to face Scarlet, and Solar has got to try his luck against Maru. Here we are in the winner's match in the bottom right of Oceanborn for the Shopify Rebellion. She is Scarlet. And in the top left is the blue Protoss. He is Team NV's Creator. So, if you were to look at Group A before the match is played out, you probably didn't anticipate this. Maybe because you really loved both of these players, you did. But you would have to admit that a little bit of heart overruled that minds. Because the facts, the stats, were absolutely in favor of Solar versus Creator and Maru versus Scarlet. But they actually now face each other in the loser's bracket. So, bit of a twist. And speaking of stats, this is once again a match which you could bet favorably on one player and, you know, have the stats to back you up. And that would be Creator. Creator generally winning against Scarlet. Not by a whole lot. I would say actually, apparently like 50%, so maybe not, but I was thinking more over the fact that they fought each other twice in the qualifiers. And Creator won both times. So actually, as far as just looking at the numbers, they're quite evenly matched. You could go either direction. But as far as what they've played out, actually, it might have been Season 1. Let me check that again. It is Season 1. Okay. Okay, well, that's a couple months ago then. No, scratch it. Scratch the whole thing. This is actually completely down the middle, basically. Creator has won against Scarlet in GSL qualifiers, which I guess you would give a little more weight to, just because it's in Korea, the homeland for Creator. He's got the home field advantage. It's GSL, so the tournament advantage, and so on. Anyway, I think they're both 2-0s as well, so that's pretty good. But then Scarlet has also won against him recently. They've traded blows, so this should be a really tightly contested match. I actually cast this season's GSL qualifiers, and I just completely forgot that they didn't face each other. Scarlet faced SOS. That's who it was, actually. Scarlet faced the weird shenanigans of SOS. Anyway. Creator looked really good versus Solar. Clearly already warmed up in the matchup, but then also arguably Scarlet was able to see how Creator now plays in this matchup. Whereas Scarlet obviously got tested versus Terran, so there's a little bit to consider there. But Protoss, the bag of tricks, still pretty true for them, even though at times there's definitely been metas where they do just go for triple Oracle, 3 Nexus, Twilight Council, you know the drill. But Creator is mixing it up. Absolutely. I mean, even in the first game versus Solar, where the opener was pretty typical, that kind of faster second Stargate and more emphasis on like Phoenix Disruptor almost was very interesting. And then the second game, obviously, with the Disruptor drop. Now, his third PVZ of the day, he is going to go into Twilight Council Resonating Glaives. Now, this is great because it's the third option, really, of, like, the core options, I guess. Stargate, Robo, and then Twilight Council, right? He's literally done them all in his 3 games here. But then I think it's also an especially good option because Scarlet has not, really kept it secret that she doesn't really appreciate Adepts. It's not the biggest problem in the world anymore, as we've moved past the point in which the Adepts opener was the opener that was 3 years ago, you know? But it still is something that's really obnoxious to deal with, especially in the hands of people who are very good with the Adepts. And there's always that decision as far as, you know, is it 3 gates? Is it 4 gate? Is it even up, you know, higher than that? Is he going to follow up with the Immortal Adept all in? Is it going to be like a macro follow-up? What is it exactly? So that's the current problem for Scarlet, who's probably figured this out, perhaps even off of the Warp Gate timing, which you want to double check because they can fake you out with it, but this Overlord could see. And third Nexus still not being placed down or even attempted to be put down. Scarlet is grabbing a Roach Warren. She's at 43 drones. Good place to start building army. It is going to be a 6 gates. Resident Glaives, all in. You can basically say all in. And for Scarlet, she would really love to 100% know this. Because if she 100% knew it, then maybe the Spore Claws wouldn't be necessary. You gotta worry about that follow-up Dark Shrine, but still. Oh no! And 7 extra drones. Definitely, absolutely freaking not. 7 extra drones is gonna be problematic. These Lings are now seeing the amount of Adepts entering across the map, and she is in trouble. Also going to be supply blocked pretty soon. You know, when you're building Roaches, that supply goes by fast. I don't see any more Overlords on the way. Oh, she's also a little gas-starved anyway, so she can't even build as many Roaches as she would like. There you have it. Lings on the way too, but there's going to be so many Adepts. And stopping the snowball right from the get-go is, you know, one of the easiest way to deal with this, and you just can't. Now when the Roaches are coming out, it's a little bit too late, not in high enough numbers, and the Adept amount is so extreme because it's 6 gates. The Adepts do get onto that ramp and take a decent fight against the Lings. Many of the Adepts now injured, and it's, you know, looks like it's going to be taken care of, but then boom, suddenly 6 more Adepts coming in the main base from that Warp Prism. And suddenly you're back to thinking that's a very good number of units. And are you even wondering, can my units even stack up against them? Adepts not looking to tango mano a mano so much, but they can if they see that they have the numbers, and especially if it's only Lings really dealing with them. Creator not digging into the economy quite yet, only killing the amount of drones that Scarlet maybe shouldn't have made in the first place, weirdly enough. But here we go, starting to rack up a little bit more, starting to use the mobility of the Adepts and the Warp Prism combined together to hit multiple locations. But finally, we do have that cleanup because the Warp Prism actually went down, something that I missed in my terrible observing, but that is really important. I think the Spore Crawler kind of moved to help out, and Creator didn't look at it. Its Queens made sure to focus fire. Scarlet does manage to deal with that. And in fact, with that being so dedicated, all the Adepts now being killed, Creator is absolutely in trouble. Maybe you should have played around a little bit more with repositioning than taking some of those more direct fights. As Scarlet is proving that Adepts are not her weakness, not at least in this particular game. Her supply looking quite strong as she's able to recover her drone count very quickly. Because, again, she mostly lost the ones that she got that would be, you know, superfluous to the defense a lot of the time. And now that she has all of this room to play with, because the Warp Prism was taken down, so not even worried about harassment, she can really pump out the drones. Super comfy place for the Zerg player. Second Warp Prism was made, but it's still that gap of time where it's not even trying to get 1 or 2 extra drone pickoffs is a lot less for the Zerg to worry about. Scarlet's got a lair, starting up some Roach speed, +1 missile as well. Baneling Nest getting to that macro phase for her. Creator's third base only just now finishing, and rather desperately trying to go for the one behind Dark Shrine. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and hoping that this might still be an opportune moment to go for that multi-pronged harassment. But the Adepts getting jumped on top of long before they enter into the mineral line is a bad start. This is what I actually thought would be quite difficult for Scarlet, was when she didn't jump on top of the Adepts right from the get-go, but she does so now, and the DTs in the main, they don't really have a lot of fighting power anyway. Yes, they kill the Spore Crawler, but oh, they die anyway. Oh, because that's Spore Crawler, Padoy. But there's an Overseer too, which is more so what I was thinking about. And this Warp Prism is, effectively dead. 9 drones seems like a decent amount, and I think it would be if the rest of the game has already gone, you know, better for Creator too. Because he did save the Warp Prism, he did save 2 DTs. But the rest of the game is kind of questionable still. Scarlet still has time to do that recovery process into the big swell of army. Maybe that was just enough to put Creator in a okay to recover position as opposed to totally screwed, but it's going to be difficult. Scarlet's very quickly getting to the drone count that she wants on 4 bases and then just going for that complete max outs as Creator does try to add on some crucial technology. Of course, Archons from the DTs, but then also charge and +1. It's a lot later. 4th base, too. On the way, great, but then also trying to defend against that on Oceanborn. Against the attacks coming in from the Zerg. Yeah, it can be kind of difficult. Difficult. Yeah. Well, that's a ragtag little Warp Prism drop. Immortal and Archon? Sure. Why not? It does look like Scarlet is just going to max out on 4 bases. As her upgrades finish, Ravager's finishing as well. Baneling's gonna form, perhaps more aggressively. Creator trying to get some harassment done, but is also scouting here. So no drones to the 4th base. A lot of army still popping out of those eggs. You can kind of put those two things together. Creator can't exactly cancel the 4th Nexus, though. Even though that, you know, I don't think he's gonna be able to save it either. He can't really cancel it. And this would usually be where the Protoss is more so creeping up to 150. And it's kind of on the cusp of going over it. Instead, in this game, with how poorly the Adepts did end up going, Creator is struggling to get past 130. And when you have to split your army and you have less army as well, it's just, you know, it's problems on problems. Double the army supply is a place where Protoss have survived before. Can Creator actually do it? Don't think so. Immediately this Immortal gets trapped. Warp Prism does come back to try and help out, but the shield battery gets demolished. The probes also getting blown to pieces, and this army fighting away from the shield battery anywho. And that is just a conquering right there. Scarlet's able to hold and play out the rest of the game as well as you would expect. GG's. She could be looking at the 1st place position of GSL Group A. In the top right of Alcyone, it is Scarlet, and she is up 1. In the bottom left, it is Creator. Creator went for a Resonant Glaives build, and quite a dedicated one at that. And I thought the reasoning was good, was sound. It's the 3rd thing, completely different tech path that he chose, along as PVZs today. So still mixing it up. And then Scarlet has still shown some weakness. I think she's not really been known for complaining about it. You know, she used to have the clan tag, you know, Depted or something, but you know, that was a while ago at this point. But she still has shown some weakness because every Zerg has shown weakness against it. Every Zerg still trips up against the Depths, whether it's 3, 4, 6, whatever gates. But Scarlet, even with the additional drones, which is generally not what you want to be seeing when you're about to be attacked, she actually dealt with that really well, and/or Creator didn't handle it as one should, perhaps a little too excited by seeing a low number of army units. Took a fight on a ramp that wasn't as good as it could be. Fighting on the ramp generally good, but it was not as good as it could be. There's a little bit more of a surround going on. More Adepts ended up being weakened after that fight than you would hope. And then continuing to take maybe some just kind of mono-a-mono fights, as opposed to splitting up the Adepts, and then losing the Warp Prism. I mean, forget about it. The Warp Prism going down was really what made the end so finite. It was just like, that's the end. That's it. So, yeah. Definitely good move of Scarlet to reposition that Spore, which I assume is what caused the problem for Creator. Usually not worth it for the pros to pull the drones, kill the probe, but in that case it was pretty quick and easy and only a certain number of drones. So Creator going to regret that, because you are missing that crucial piece of information of whether or not they're Ling all-inning you at this point. Which, Scarlet's definitely not a stranger to cheesing, even in the GSL. Even as we kind of consider Zerg cheeses a little less good. It does still happen. And it could absolutely happen when you just killed that scouting probe, because the Adept coming in afterward might be just a little too late. Then again, it might be a little too on the nose. It's also a map which... No, wait, that... No, it's not two building wall off. I'm not stupid. That's definitely not a wall off, right? And even if the subnext core was pushed forward a little bit, that'd still be 2 gaps. Well, she's not going for it anyway. So, not gonna hyperanalyze that one. Creator is sending an Adept across the map that is now, you know, main purpose scouting. Am I being all in? Great, I'm not. Well, still has to shade in. But then, yeah, shade in, see not 20 lings waiting. Great, I'm not being all in. Fantastic. I mean, Scarlet could still be doing a better job of hiding if she actually was, you know, 4 lings on the front, but then 20 lings over here. But if it was going to be the fastest ling cheese to take advantage of that probe kill, the lings would have already, I think, been running across the map anyway. Obviously, speed's not done yet, so. Yep, Scarlet. Oh! Getting this around with 2 adepts that actually did go ahead and shade on through. Unfortunately, still losing 3, maybe 4 drones. There we go. 4 drones. 5? No, not 5. But, you know, still, even though that doesn't actually equate to 2 adepts, resource cost, some would say that's, you know, pretty good for the Protoss, I guess. The lost mining time as well. And considering that she almost got a full surround there, it's kind of a bummer that she lost 4 drones instead of 2. Oracle first from Creator, that did fly straight across the map. No fear there, especially as he's delaying his 3rd Nexus anyway. So absolutely 0 fear. Scarlet's Lings could have jumped on top of a budding 3rd base if that was actually the Protoss's plan, but it is absolutely not. 2 gases coming down prior to that, really showcasing a more high-tech, perhaps even kind of cheesy strategy. This also can be done when you anticipate not being able to grab the 3rd base, to be fair, which might be more so the case here. So the Void Ray actually just supply blocks Scarlet, who's also struggling to deal with the Oracle harassment, lost 3 more drones. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it does start to add up to, you know, Cyril's expectations. This is him playing his worst game of his life. But it's not that it's not recoverable, it's kind of sore, and, you know, she does not get any chance to stop this 3rd Nexus from coming down. Actual resources trades is really not that bad, considering gas is the rarer commodity, but kind of just feels like Creator's getting the benefit, even after the initial probe loss. And Scarlet does still have to be maybe a little scared of what's actually happening behind this 3rd Nexus. Yes, it's on the way. It's not going to be a 2-base SOS carrier cheese, which she had to deal with in the GSL qualifiers up on this YouTube. But it could still be, well, many different things. It could still be a more focus on a fleet beacon, which I would say is unlikely, but just throwing it out there. Twilight Council Forge, charge or blink. A faster attack, a slower attack. More emphasis on the Disruptor build. Faster Robotics Bay, faster Robo, that's what it is. Scarlet will not know. What she does know is that even if it's kind of a faster aggression with, like, Bling Stalkers, for instance, it's really not gonna be that fast. And she's got time to build drones, start up that +1 melee, Roach Warren coming down, lair for her as she gets to 5 hatcheries, actually. But even more drone damage from the Oracles, which will live. And just a little bit worse, a little bit worse. I don't even know where the other ones are going down. Oh, Adepts in the Natural, that's where. One Adept managing to get recalled out, good for you. War Prism is on the way, all 6 gases charge, and the Templar Archives no doubt coming down there. They are indeed. So definitely not a faster attack, but again, Scarlet just wouldn't actually know this. She didn't get a scout on, like, the Robo timing, for instance. Glad to confirm that wasn't a wall, by the way. Just taking crazy pills for a second. It wasn't a Robotics Bay, though, despite being a bit of a faster Robo. Just grabbing that Immortal. An Observer. We're really Charge Archon. It's the way to go here. And the Lings are going to scout more charge lots, more Zealots, and then charge lots, and figure out that's the case. And with that, actually, just that maybe even scout right then and there, she's decided that actually going into an Infestation Pit is totally fine. You know, she's not going to max out on a gigantic ground force army like last game when she clearly had the advantage. She's not worried about an attack incoming to her, especially as the 4th base is coming down for Creator. So she can actually do that tech up. Might be able to get some Vipers, take down would-be Colossus or Disruptors, which now the Robotics Bay is on the way, alongside a 2nd Robo. And she will be more than prepared for whatever comes out of that. So if Creator was going for instance, that kind of 2 Colossus push out, which he was not, but still if he was, Scarlet's Vipers might have actually been in time. In this case, again, it is pretty macro on both sides. Scarlet has not seen the 4th base, to be fair. She wouldn't know if it is that build or not. But eventually we'll be able to scout this. Not going to be able to punish it, because she is also going for her Hive technology. Big Overlord swell, as it is that type of game. Just dealing with some Oracle harassment. Not much you can do, unfortunately. Other than pay attention. War Prism for some light harassment here. 4 Zealots is all that it takes. Scarlet's army somewhat in position to deal with this. They're not even going to lose the Queen. Easy peasy. But that means that Crater is comfortably on 4 bases, building up to the Colossus. Now, the Colossus are still going to be weak to the Abduct, but obviously Crater does have High Templars. So feedbacks are going to... The dance is going to exist. Feedbacks versus Vipers. And with Scarlet not adding on a Spire, it's not going to be that Greater Spire plan that we were seeing from Solar. At least not nearly as quickly. Yeah, that's an Ultralisk Cavern right there. And they're a little bit cheaper. Hey. 25 mils cheaper. Couple of Fungals right off the bat. Again, great at buying time, even if they don't actually do all that much damage. Not that Crater is looking to move out as he grabs a 5th base and is still nowhere close to being maxed either. Perhaps when the Extended Thermal Lance and +2 are done, that might be the timing of which to push out, but then it would be awkward to move out into someone who has built, let's say, 6 Ultras that have Chitinous Plating already. Not going to be so awkward because Crater scouts the Ultralisk Cavern and now could just swap over into more Immortal production. Easy peasy, actually. Usually, I would say the Ultras are good in 2 situations. One, like, very late game, clearing High Templars on the grounds. And then 2, surprising a Protoss who was like, oh... I don't need that many Immortals, and then just walks out on the map and gets surrounded. Shouldn't be the case here. And actually, I wonder if just, like, literally that scout alone will stop Scarlet from really going into Ultras? Apparently not. Great Stasis Trap, mostly for the Force Field effect. Scarlet would have been all types of choked up if she did commit to that attack, which would have been tempting. This is a very small-looking army, right? But not with the, again, kind of Force Field here. War Prism attacking. Oh, we got the Ultralisk Cavern. Oh, the Ultralisk Cavern is gone. Chitinous Plating delayed, and Adrenal Glands also was under fire. That will end up finishing, however. But Scarlet, I mean, I don't really think her Ultra plan's going to work anyway, but now it's even further delayed. She's going to have to wait so long to get Chitinous Plating and the speed boost for the Ultras, which I don't remember the name of it. But who cares? No one does. It's Ultra Speed, all right? It's the Ultra Zoomies. It's the most important thing. I said that Creator might go for a push out when he does finish up those 2 upgrades. They are now both done, but after seeing that it is an Ultra play, I think might be looking to build up more of the sturdy anti-Ultra type of army, more Immortals. Archon number also just recently grew. These Ultras, again, are not particularly good. It's more about the Ling Bane, a couple of Fungals coming down, but still able to micro, thank goodness. Shield Battery Overcharge also just repairing so many of these Protoss units, and this was a haphazard attack. I think Scarlet was kind of going off the fact that the army had kind of pushed out a little bit. I was looking for that Fungal, thought maybe she could collapse in, but absolutely not the case. Absolutely not. Scarlet throwing away a big ol' army, and still, as she tries to remax with Ultras, still does not have Chitinous Plating. I wonder if she thought she had it, honestly. That was a very bold move to do, even if you thought you were going to take a good fight. The repercussions, should you not, especially because your Ultras are far worse than they should be, is an immediate counterattack into still terrible Ultras. So that's why I'm like, either not realizing or just thinking that was too good of an opportunity to pass up. Either way, big mistake made from Scarlet, and she will be losing game number 2. Creator definitely savvy enough to pick up on the advantage here. Of course, has a very short distance to her 5th base. Scarlet does have a 6th on the rich gold, but yeah. Cannot afford to replace the army. GG's. Creator will even up the score, and now we go into a game 3 finally. Game number 3 will be on Hecate. In the bottom left, it is Creator. Top right, we've got Scarlet. Scarlet was 1 map away, still is, from making it out first in the GSL. But now Creator also 1 map away. Kind of tried to cheese out Scarlet in the first game, kind of to be fair. I was going to throw in what a particularly cheesy all-in, or just all-in in general. Hope that it sticks. It did not. Then played a far more passive standard game, especially dependent on the scouting. And Creator was rewarded. Scarlet definitely took a far too bad of a fight. It was, as I said, a little bewildering. And you gotta just kind of think of what could have been the reasoning behind there, which I think is one of two things. She thought chitin splitting was done, not that she had that many ultras taking advantage of it, but still. Or she thought that it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. The army had positioned itself a little bit farther forward, was close to being surrounded or fungled away from static defense, and thought that the vulnerable Colossus with their little stick legs would fall faster than they did, which was actually not at all. They never died. So if she just thought chitin splitting was done, I'm not sure that would have been the biggest factor, because there were that many ultras. So I don't think it was that. But to think that she had a perfect opportunity, I can kind of see it. But it was really one of those things where if you're given more time to think about in the heat of the moment, which they are not, and then the risk, I think, was just far too great. Not for the effect of the battle, the risk naturally taken when you take a battle in StarCraft 2, but more the risk of not being able to reinforce post-battle, right? Especially for the Zerg player who's, you know, kind of kit is involves remaxing very quickly and taking a second fight because their army is supposed to be a little less good. But the idea that if chitin splitting was done, she might have been able to remax on good ultras and then still take advantage of creators' movement out in the map and being surrounded. But chitin splitting was literally so far away from finishing that even as she tried to remax as fast as possible, which wasn't fast enough still, they were still terrible ultras. So the risk was incredibly high when she took that fight. Higher than usual, I would say. But them's the breaks in StarCraft. You gotta make that split-second decision, which really did not go well for her. That's what I think, the two options anyway. Could be a third one I'm just not thinking of right now. But that means that Scarlet is a little bit worse for wear as far as advancing. You know, she loses here, then she has to rematch Maru or face Solar in a ZVZ. Both very daunting prospects. ZVZ, just kind of intimidating. But also the rematch versus Maru. We do have a rematch curse in GSL. I don't care what the stats say, it absolutely freaking exists. But then also just the idea that, you know, Maru's not going to get fooled twice, and by fooled I mean just not even fooled. He's just going to play better the next time you face him. There's always a worry. 2 adepts this time around, grabbing 5 drones, improving on the 4 of last game, which I already noted is kind of okay for the Protoss. Even as a direct trade doesn't actually hit the numbers, it's still good for them, trading out those 2 adepts for economy early on in the game. So great start for Creator. Oracle now passing on through. Again, no fear of keeping that at home to stop the Lings from getting a 3rd Nexus snipe, because Creator just delays his 3rd Nexus anyway. It's really not the fastest it possibly could be. And that's because he lost the Adepts, and because he wants the Oracle to get aggressive, especially if he sees no Spore Crawler. And the downside is a little later Nexus, but probably worth it, right? If he saves the 2 Adepts and doesn't sacrifice them, this might actually be, you know, a bit faster. But this case, it actually was about on par as normal. It is going to be a snipe, probably because of that, but I'm saying you didn't get the 2 gases prior to the 3rd Nexus, that's why it's basically a normal one. And that's what Scarlet was hoping for, I think, in the last game, too. She finally gets the cancel this time around. So a little bit more tit for tat. Losing the drones. Oh, she lost 8 in total with the Oracles. Ooh! But at least getting a ooh, yeah, it's not great. Cancel was at least gotten, you know? Yeah, Creator should still be pretty happy with how things have gone down. Once again, going Void Ray and then triple Oracle by the looks of things. Yeah, that's his 3rd Oracle, so yep. Scarlet going for a faster Evolution Chamber, gonna get that +1 melee. Which I think she has been doing, right? Well, no, the first game. The first game was an outlier. Because of the Adepts, the 2 base from Creator. Creator, up to 3 bases, gonna go for the Robo first once again. Now, this actually didn't really get used a tremendous amount in the last game. They did not add on the Robotics Bay swiftly after. It instead bought an Immortal, an Observer, and then it chilled until the Robotics Bay was eventually put down. But it looks like it should be different this time around, because it's only a Forge, not a Twilight Council and Forge. So this should lead into Robotics Bay, right? Stasis Trap Harassment maybe going down here. Might be being set up defensively as well. 2 Oracles back at home. Fearful, perhaps, of Scarlet's insistent Ling pressure. She's really not, though. Just enough to guard against adept harassments, more so on the drones. 4th base on the way, creep spread as usual. Twilight Council does come down, so maybe that was just a mistake. Maybe he meant to get back to it a bit faster after the forge was put down. Ah, okay. Well, never mind then. 6 gases, gonna go to Twilight Council, and a Templar Archive, so this is like last game, absolutely. But that's Twilight Council, I think, was just straight up late, I think. Adepts do get into the mineral line, but to not much effect. Maybe they did kill 1 drone? And I'd say this is just a game that feels better for Creator, even after he maybe was later to the Twilight Council than he would have wanted to be, but still, the damage and the offsetting of the Zerg player feels a little bit better. This is a really weird push out. What the hell is this? Is this on purpose? I mean, I guess Creator's only seen, like, the same 13 Lings over and over again, but I don't know, man. That's a really weird push out. That is the oddest one I've seen. Sometimes I've seen it with an Immortal, I guess, but even then, okay, it's not being spotted, so who cares? +1 melee is done. Scarlet initially grabbing +2 melee and then deciding better. No, I don't want to go for that. Let's go for Missile. Possibly a big swell this time around to try and end the series. Big swell of Ling, Baneling, Roach Ravager. We will keep our eyes on that. Actually, there's getting more drones, so. Shield battery destroyed, couple of probes destroyed, but then at the same time, Oracle killing drones. Quick to replace those. She was already joining up anyway. 4th Nexus on the way for Creator. Macro game once again, and it feels like Scarlet is going to add on the Infestation Pit. I would be really shocked if she went for Ultra Play again, unless she really has a plan. I mean, she definitely is a player, I'd say, that's more well-known for abusing strategies, patches, and maps faster. But maybe it doesn't matter, actually. Creator pushing with a little bit stronger of an army, becoming infinitely stronger with the War Prism involved. Archon's all coming through, too, and Scarlet is just a bit late to actually producing army. She got to 83 drones before really putting the pedal to the army metal. And that might have just killed her. I think it actually did. Wow. I am basically as shocked as Scarlet is right now. Creator with the most minimal map presence of the, like, 2 Sentries and 2 Adepts. Cleared out the creep spread, I guess, in the middle and the Overlords in the middle. And then just arrived with still a relatively small amount of army. But with that War Prism in tow, was just enough to take advantage of a too greedy, too blind Scarlet, who just probably thought, like I did, that this was going to go into minute 10, 11, 12. But she is in a lot of trouble as the natural goes down, 15 drones as well. She just didn't know this was on the way. This was not a particularly committed Creator attack. 7 gateways, even a little low once you're on 4 Nexus. 4th Nexus, obviously, right? I mean, this was just the perfect timing. Complete surprise. Creator will eventually get cleaned up, has to just pick up the units that he can, which is 2 Immortals and the War Prism, but still, Scarlet lost 21 drones. And a natural base? That was far too much damage. His Creator does deplete his army, and Protoss armies are, you know, expensive, but powerful. It's only so expensive when you're on 4 bases. Totally saturated. The question would be, did Scarlet pump out enough army to immediately counterattack and cause some problems because Creator's production isn't high enough? No double robo, no 10 gateways. But I don't think she did. I do not think she did. She lost so much army reinforcing into the awaiting arms of Creator's Archons and Immortals. If she had a 160-ish supply, I could see something happening on the immediate counterattack. And look, Creator didn't even have a shield battery at his 4th. No, his 3rd, sorry, his 3rd. Like, that might have been an opportunity, but she lost too much. So no immediate counterattack. Creator can wipe the sweat off his brow. Now pretty freaking confident that that was the killing blow, that he will be advancing in 1st place in GSL Group A. He does get a little shocked to see the army still over on that right side, but a couple of force fields come down, the Lings get slaughtered, and Creator, now further convinced of his ability to hold even supply between Protoss and Zerg, is bad news for the Zerg player. Especially as shield batteries are now prepared, force fields still ready to go, and +2 attack done for the Protoss. That's 5 Immortals with the shield battery helping out, and an Immortal for the Micro too. This just does not seem overcomable, especially as Scarlet continues to take damage back at home. Oracle's killing drones, killing a hatchery, and she is all in with this. It's do or die in the winner's match. And she is starting to break through some of the immortals, starting to kill some of these stalkers, but still so much Protoss left over in terms of infrastructure and economy. And that Warp Prism is a godsend, actually. This creator is quite dependent on it, but it is here. It is here, and it's working. Shield battery still up to the top left, out of juice, but the last Roach is about to get killed by the immortal charge lot reinforcements, and Scarlet is just gonna desperately throw an army across the map, realizing she can't macro out of this. But I think it's too late. Another mortal does get popped, but more reinforcements come in for Creator, who also could pull the probes, like if a really desperate situation happens. And Creator does in fact hold. Scarlet's taking too much damage, not able to recover while also going for that attack. She's down 20 plus workers as Creator busts out a few more probes. Blink's gonna finish, +3 is on the way. Scarlet not adding on a further technology or further upgrades, is gonna go for the double down, the second all in, and hope to catch Creator off guard. The Creator's Warp Prism did just see army moving across the map, sees army being produced as well, and is gonna pick up on what Scarlet's putting down, no problem. As well as actually interrupt some of the reinforcements too, although the Warp Prism really shouldn't die. It will not. Another attack to the top left, no shield battery on the 4th base. Creator just actually skimped on shield batteries in general. That Archon gonna get taken down, lickety splits, but the charge lot stalker numbers do seem pretty high, again with some decent upgrades. Oracle's even helping out. 3rd one comes in with some pulsar beam, no Ravagers created, as this was all about the speed, and Scarlet supply at this point is telling the tale. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate for Scarlet fans out there, but great news for the Protoss fans who will get another... No, this is the first group, duh. Who will get a Protoss into the round of 8, guaranteed. Scarlet doesn't really want to admit defeat, kind of understandably. I think this is a very frustrating series, and particularly game for her, where it felt like she was on the cusp of victory after game 1, of course, but then also in this game, you kind of got... You're building your sandcastle, and the bullet came over and knocked it over. Like, you were very close to completing your sandcastle. And it was almost, it wasn't accidental. You know, Creator did a thing very purposefully that was very smart and really took advantage of the moment, but it was almost cavalier, you know, like the audacity. Probably very, very frustrating. And that's what I'm thinking is Scarlet's reasoning for staying in this game, besides the additional fact that it is the GSL. And you want to give it your all, even there's a 10% chance of making a comeback, you want to try for it. But it's dwindling. I don't think it was at 10% a minute ago. It was like 5%. Now it's like 2%. You're telling me there's a chance. If Scarlet could get maxed, and then Creator just leaves his Colossus out in the open to be destroyed, maybe not even then. There is a certain assumption you have to be making for both players about, you know, their possibilities of screwing up. Well, that's a pretty big screw up right there. But those weren't even the Colossus, those were Stalkers, which are a bit easier to replace, certainly faster to replace. Oracle also gets taken down. Scarlet giving herself some hope right there, I guess. Thanks, Creator. Really nice of you. If Creator were to throw this game, by the way, this would be an epic rage. But I'm pretty sure he can't. 5th base is done, probes being transferred, Zealots harassing, Warp Prism still on the map. +3 attack is done as well for Creator. Starts at +1 armor, which is over halfway done. It's gonna have 2 upgrade leads. +2 missiles so late for Scarlet. Oh, and now she's playing defensively too. It's gonna lessen her chances of winning. Just because she might be choked up in her own choke, trying to defend, and again, Zergs need to remax to really take the best fight possible. And the Colossus are on the front lines, and the Protoss army is all types of bulked up. 2 Colossus go down in the blink of an eye. Lots of Immortals getting injured as well, but the Archon's reinforcing stops Scarlet from being able to push forward and take full advantage of the situation. She's got Lings going for a 5th base run by, killing a decent amount of probes, but she's also losing drones to the Zealots as well. And every time it looks like Scarlet's doing good things, there's always a counterbalance. Creator's infrastructure, his economy, counterbalancing damage done to him. or literally doing a similar amount of damage to Scarlet in the process. Run-bys of his own, attacking his army, whatever it is. It's just, it's not pure gains from Scarlet, which you really need, just like pure 100% gains. The gains. Even Overlord's being misrouted at this point, she really needs them, which is not a good thing. Colossus Micro, as creator, chooses a more cautious approach after honestly mishandling this fight a little bit. He's like, oh, you can just calm down. Just calm down. Make sure I win this game. Stop being silly. You know, that and the stalkers, right? So, 2 reminders to creator not to throw this game. Scarlet really has one of 2 choices. Either high army, max out over and over again, trying to catch creator off guard, or high technology, kind of striving towards greater spire to try and surprise with broodlords. Of course, if she tries the latter option, it's more likely that creator will pick up on that. Will be like, okay, why isn't she attacking me? What is she actually doing? Oh, greater spire, what a surprise. Let me out on a fleet beacon. But those are 2 choices, really. There's no third one, right? What do they even think of? And creator, more than capable of handling both choices. Is now, well, not quite remaxed, but close enough. Certainly rebuilt the powerful Archon Colossus portion of this army. Pushes in pretty easily to kill Scarlet's 4th base. Banelings roll in really almost into nothing right there. And that is indeed going to be it. Creator will be the first player out of Group A, the Protoss. Showcasing some excellent PvZ, will make it through to the round of 8. Scarlet still has one more chance. We'll have to see who she faces, Solar or Maru, as we head into the losers match TVZ. Welcome to the losers match. Might be between 2 people you weren't expecting, but it is absolutely here. In the bottom right, it is Maru. And in the top left of Site Delta, it is Solar. That's right, the losers match. We just had Creator get through to first place into the round of 8 by defeating Scarlet. Scarlet now waits for the winner of these 2 to get her chance to actually move on. So, one of these players will be saying goodbye to GSL Season 3 2023, which will hopefully not be the last GSL. I have heard positive things, so, you know, the rumorist of rumors is optimistic, I suppose. But yeah, I've not been sure about GSL for a while now, but it does help that the Patreon is so successful, which, by the way, you should absolutely be supporting the Patreon if you're watching Korean StarCraft. That prize does go to the funds do go to the prize pool for the players. That's patreon.com/GSL, where you can get not only these replays if you wanted to go through them and learn, you know, Maru's build order and whatnot, but also behind the scenes interviews and some other content they have, I believe. Basically, for me, it's just the replays, but it's good stuff because, again, all of it goes to the players, adding on to the prize pool of GSL. So we have Maru versus Solar. Maru, statistically, very favored here. I know I got that wrong in my last one, but Maru does win most of the time. About 73% of the time, if I did my math correctly. 70% of the time. He's won the last 4 times that they have faced against each other, and he's pretty one-sided as well. So, you know, good luck to Solar. But it has been a bit of an upset day anyway. Creator was not favored versus Solar, yet he won. And Scarlet was not favored versus Maru, yet she won. So, and then Creator versus Scarlet was actually pretty even down the line, actually. But this one is back to being supposedly very favored to Maru. And that's not really a surprise, I would expect, as Maru is coming in as a favorite to win GSL yet again. But here he is in the losers match, facing what still is a very feisty Zerg player indeed. And Maru didn't look quite as on point versus Scarlet, honestly. I mean, Scarlet played well, sure, but Maru definitely didn't have that just every decision perfectly played out that he would when he wins the GSL. So either still getting warmed up or actually just kind of offset by maybe the maps and the patch or something. But we have a perhaps more comfortable player for him to go up against. I believe Maru and Scarlet don't play all that often, whereas Maru and Solar do seem to play quite frequently, even though they both don't really play in as many online cups. They seem to meet each other more often. I mean, Maru usually wins. It's sometimes very, very close, though, like real nail-biter Game 5 type situation. In this particular game, we have Maru going for his 2 racks forward opener, all fine and dandy, but he actually went up to 5 Reapers, not just the typical 3. And this change will delay your stim, combat shields, factory, I believe, as well. Basically all that extra gas, right? But what it does is gives you that extra firepower. Queen's not able to make their way over to the 3rd base particularly quickly and off of creep. Even if they had a transfuse, they couldn't use it. And then the hatchery can only ever be so healthy. When you get it, it has to build up to its health, right? So unfortunately, even with the speed being a pretty normal speed timing, just that amount of DPS was enough to force a cancel. Not a fantastic start for Solar, who of course also lost the drone. Is going to take a 3rd base over to the left side too. I mean, I don't know if they really had to, because speed is done, but chooses to. Looks like we also had a pretty severe macro problem. This does tend to happen at such an early disruption, just as it's abnormal. Most of the time, the first 4 minutes, I guess, of StarCraft 2 can be fairly figured out. But in this case, Solar didn't anticipate fast enough, I guess, the hatchery being canceled, so that usual supply it gives you wasn't there. And we have Cyclones as a follow-up. It's the first time that we've seen Maru really experiment with the patch. His series versus Scarlet was pretty typical. And it was more so of what the Zerg changes were that might have impacted that series, but apparently positively for Scarlet, even though the bailing was a nerf. Double Cyclone is going to be, fun to watch, but probably not super impactful. Although with 5 Reapers, 5 Marines as well. I don't know. One thing it absolutely will give you is the map control early on. You'll be able to take down some overlords. You can see that this does provide high ground vision once you're on top of this ramp. And then if there was any further overlords in position, like perhaps this one also could go down. Solar's usually pretty conservative about his overlord placement, however. A lot of Korean openers do tend to revolve around sniping a couple of the first ones. And that's going to be even worse with the Cyclones, but it's can be a bad thing sometimes for him, but in this case it's good. Only going to lose the 1. Now having Hellions join up, further anti-Ling pressure. The Queens are really the biggest wall here, and even then they can be shot down. Kind of still early on in the game, not a whole lot of chance uses for them. So map control absolutely goes towards the Terran. And Maru's going to use this just to kind of jump into bio. He's got 3CC back at home and is going to be building his 3rd barracks finally. Stim is already done with combat shields on the way. Overlord does go down and supply block Solar as well. But he is set up for a surround. Now he's going to be able to get it. Yeah, almost. Not quite. And these Lings got body blocked actually by the Queens. And with a little bit of stutter step, it looks like Maru will be able to save, well, some of his army. He does lose that 1 Cyclone. Medivac's just barely not in time to make that a perfect attack. But nonetheless, Solar lost a lot of Lings trying to take care of that. So now with the Medivacs here, of course, Stim can be used by those Marines. And the Cyclone still getting a couple of crucial lock-ons. Medivac number 1 is getting sniped or close to it. So far, so good for both players as far as saving their critical units. Solar's Queen's very injured, but still alive. And again, very low on the transfuses, but they are still here. Maru continuing to just rally through the middle of the map, is now finally going to get 3, make that 4, almost 4 Queen kills. But the Queens are definitely not able to save this 4th hatchery. Once again, has to be canceled. Drone is killed, and Solar, he is struggling. Because as at no point he's really been able to pull a full stop of this attack out, it means that he's not been droning. Although this catch on a tank is fucking fantastic. Whoops. Pardon my French. But anyway, the problem for Solar is he's really not been able to get a lot of drones. So this consistent pressure from Maru is absolutely working out. Solar finally gets a little bit more of a surround, but the combat shields has kicked in. The Marine's a little sturdier. The Medivac not able to do its full healing, however, thanks to the Queens trying to snipe it. There will just be 1 more Queen dead, but again, a lot of Lings. 86 Lings have died, and that might seem like it could be equivalent to the army lost from the Terran. It's absolutely not. It actually really isn't. Never mind. But even if it was, the problem is that, of course, as a Zerg player, you have to build both your drones and your army out of the same resource, the larva. And especially when you're already stuck on a limited amount of larva because you've been denied your hatchery so often, you're just not producing what you need the time that you need it. It's very offset. Solar now trying to replace the drones, does get up to a decent amount, but has to cancel a 5th base and has to hope this 4th base actually gets up and running. It's not even halfway done. So Larva absolutely becoming an issue. 1,000 minerals in the bank here for Solar. He's also supply block, that consistent aggression hurting him in so many different ways. Really the best thing that happened was that Solar was, one, finally able to full stop the aggression at some point, get that breathing room, which is okay. But then 2, grab that tank. This really should have been a second tank here. Oh, and 3, finds Maru not paying attention, does not pick up as quickly as he could. Solar staying alive right now and is trying to fit in a hive. Now that seems like a lot to fit in. Maru has not really been putting the screws to Solar as much as he possibly can. Now this is looking like a much heftier push, and so this type of push, I find it unlikely that Solar can hold. But we'll see. Maybe a couple of good connections, right? Maru was a little late to responding to some of the battles when he was facing Scarlet. And a run by could definitely help. A distraction could be critical. They get into the natural, they're going to cancel the 4th base. Maru just now entirely focused on the attack, cancels the 4th base, and is going to have his reinforcements try and take care of the 3rd, or the natural rather, or both, I guess. Marines absolutely have to be picked up, but that tank is getting a lot of really good shots. The Baneling numbers, not high enough. And try and tackle the Ling numbers, certainly not high enough, especially as the run-by Lings did get cleaned up without doing any damage to the economy, actually. That's 3 drones on SCVs. Maru is absolutely winning this game. It wasn't necessarily by leaps, but it has been a very consistent pushing forward, pushing Solar into the ground, and Solar at this point in time is 5 feet under, soon to be 6. He is out of luck for this particular game. And this was a pretty strong showing, I suppose, of the new and improved TVZ as far as the 2-racks opener is concerned, but then also a little bit of that Cyclone patch. They were able to be reactored out, accompanied by just a handful of better anti-Ling units. They did gain a lot of map control, but it really was a jab, 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 major punch to the face. So it's all about the Cyclones, but they did contribute. And Maru's army supply, now 40 above his opponents. 2-2 is about to kick in as well, although 2-2 is already done for Solar. That's the one thing that he has going for him. It's not going to be enough. Ling Bane looking to crash into the 3rd CC. I don't know if the 4th is ever replaced. It's being replaced now. But the Banelings aren't even crashing into the SUVs. Solar trying to defend at home as well. The last hurrah will not be good enough. Only queens left over, and Maru will take game number 1. Game number 2 on Alcyone. In the top right, it is Maru. Bottom left, it is Solar. Really double check that. Is it? I'm saying it with confidence, you know, and hoping that gets me a certain amount of credit. No, I'm saying it right.
Alcyone.
It's the stupidest name. Why you do this? What the hell, ancient Latin or whatever the hell it is. Anyway, Maru is not forward 2-raxing. He is proxying? No. I don't know what he's doing, actually. Because if he was engineering bay blocking, it would be a much more direct path. Barracks at home, in the 2nd barracks in proxy? Have I seen this? Actually, I might have, and I just totally forgot. I might have seen this, actually. Okay, interesting. So if Solar's Overlord goes all the way across the map, it's going to see that single barracks and go, oh, shit, there might be a Marine out. As we've seen, that was in Maru vs. Scarlet, yeah. So he's gonna go, oh shit, there might be a Marine out, and then he's gonna pull his Overlord back to try and make sure it doesn't die to any of that early Marine defense. And in the process, he's not gonna get that full scout on the timing of the command center, because if this really was a single barracks, it's a 1-racks expand. There's a possibility, I suppose, it's a factory expand, because that, you know, that does occasionally come in TVZ, especially at a super high level where you're trying to really fake out and trick your opponent, but the point is, you know, that's going to be some confusion. And, of course, we have a Reaper popping out closer to Solar. So that's very scary indeed. Solar is going for a typical opener hatch gas pool. I think it was anyway. Solar did experiment a lot with the early pool build, but I don't know if he did this time. But anywho, he's definitely not going to know what's going on. Although, oh, well, I might take that back, actually. So if he sees the Reaper, and he will see the Reaper, then it's a, you know, there's actually, there's far less fear that a Marine's going to come out and kill this Overlord. If a Marine is coming out now, it still has to actually pop out. The Overlord's going to see the Command Center timing, of which I believe that is enough to already, well, plus the Reaper coming up very, very soon, but it's already enough to determine that it's actually 2 racks. That second Reaper goes, oh, okay, it's proxy, gotcha. And this will start the aggression. Solar already responding as much as he can. Loses a single Ling, that's okay so far. And now the drone might go down, there you go. Still not too bad. Solar, I think, most importantly, getting a 3rd drone out so that it's not intercepted along the pathway means that this hatchery can actually start building, start gaining health, which means that 3 Reapers probably not going to be enough to actually get this kill. Of course, if it was just the drone trying to make its jolly way over, that's an instant kill, a further block in the 3rd hatch, and things start to snowball. But this is really important. And Maru is not going to invest into the 4th and 5th Reaper, so there won't be enough DPS to stop this, especially with the Queens kind of trying to get ahead of that because of the way the last game went. At least I don't think it'll be a cancel, but I mean, Grenade's pretty good, man. Oh, it's not going to be a cancel. It'll be a very weak hatchery when it completes, but it'll eventually regen that energy, so hey, there you go. Hey, pretty nice evolution chamber block and save on the weakened drone. Solar absolutely improving upon the last game, that's for sure. Yes, it's less Reapers, but he was kind of ahead of the curve. He was ahead of what Maru was going to try to do, even with less Reapers, but a slightly faster one, right? So very important for Solar to get this good start as he is on his last life in the GSL. Now, as Overlord was able to stay put, there were no Marines that were built afterward, which... yeah, I mean, they could have gotten the lifted... well, no, go! Jesus, there's the wall! Oh my god! Oh, and there's no wall in the main either when you do this. What the hell? Oh, he misplaced that supply depot. Bad. Oh, he was supposed to place it here and have this perfect wall off at the reactor, but probably the less practiced spawn position. And there's only so much you can do, and it just kind of, you know, like that. Oh, man. But having his barracks, his first barracks lifted and letting, oh, man. Because the Overlord was seeing that, right? The Overlord was literally seeing that there was a gap. So Maru just did not give enough credit to the fact that Solar could come across the map. Now, to be fair, that was a very exact timing. Because if Solar had waited longer, 2 Hellions pop out, it's not as bad. But... that was a lot of damage. That was 10 SCVs, guys. 10 SCVs killed. Certainly worth the Ling sacrifice. And a full scout as well, seeing the 3rd CC and the 2-1-1 setup, and now seeing some Widow Mines. Just gonna kill the Overlord, great, but now you know the follow-up plan there too. Which, by the way, with roaches on the way, Solar is just gonna kill the guy. Just gonna punch him in the face. And Widow Mines are not great at stopping punches to the face, not by roaches anyway. And sometimes not against Lings if they properly micro, right? So... Maru is in a lot of trouble. He is in a lot of trouble. The only reason that the economies look so close is because Solar first and foremost made 10 roaches, but he should be actually going to attack. There they are. It's like, there's no way he just stays at home. That would be a disaster. There's the attack, taking a long path to ensure that he's not scouted by the Zelnaga, which is controlled, of course, by Hellions, so the Lings can't clear that out. The roaches could, but then they'd be revealed, so just making this as sneaky as possible. Starport is now on the front lines. I mean, if the factory was up in the main, protected by a wall, there's a chance a tank could pop out at some point, but yeah, not at all here. One of the easier games Solar will ever have against Maru, that's for sure. Thank you very much. And now they are both on their last life heading into Game 3. Game 3 on Oceanborn. In the top left, it is Maru. In the bottom right, it is Solar. They are trying to survive to head into the decider match to face Scarlett, for who makes it out second in GSL. One player here has to lose, has to be knocked out in 4th place. Both would be a surprise. The bigger surprise would be Maru. If he was knocked out in 4th place in the round of 16, it'd be, well, a complete reversal of his, you know, his history. Winning the GSL to being knocked out first and foremost. But it could happen. It could happen. Maru's once again gonna go for the forward 2 racks. Kind of changed up last game, but really to no avail. It didn't do what he wanted, which I think was just a snowball a little bit. He went into the main base when... If you knew for a fact that you would intercept the third drone, that probably is the better call. That third drone kill is much more impactful than the single drone kill he got in the main base, that's for sure. But you're not quite sure. Some Zerg players do take a more conservative approach when they figure things out, but Solar, or not even conservative, they don't even intentionally do it, they just realize they can't sneak the drone out. So they go, okay, I need to adapt. But in that case, Solar did sneak it. I didn't even see him sneak it, but what's more important is that Maru didn't see it either. That wasn't what killed Maru, not at all. That little missed opportunity was still something he could macro out of course. Is losing 10 SCVs to the Ling run by, and having his build entirely scouted from start to finish. Solar chose a very appropriate response to it. Maru is going to be going for a command center soon. And it is maybe going to be just the 3 Reapers. That 5 Reaper strategy worked out pretty well. Is he going to do it again? Reaper goes to the 3rd, doesn't see a drone or a hatchery there. The drone just kind of went off to the side. It is going to be further Reaper harassment, so 5 Reapers on top of the 3rd hatchery. We saw what could happen in the first game, but the Queens might have been pulled a little bit later. The map was a little bit different, although I think this also is a pretty fair distance. And... well, that's basically the 2 big things, because speed looks to be at the same time. I don't know about the rush distance of the map, too, from Maru's side to Solar's side. This drone is on Mission Impossible, and unfortunately, it does not work. The drone, oh, it's gonna get saved at the very least. And if Solar could sneak out another drone, oh, he is, but to the forward position. Now, this is still a bit awkward. You generally don't want to move into a forward position against the Terran as a Zerg, because it's not likely that you're going to be the aggressor as the Zerg player in this matchup. So decreasing the distance of their rally to a crucial base for you is generally seen as not worth it, even if your creep spread gets started a little bit farther along. It's a bit risky. If there's no super abusive positions where tanks could get up here, then maybe it's still not that bad. You can kind of pick and choose. Or if you do choose to be aggressive, like a Roach build, it can be fine. But, you know, this might not have been ideal for Solar. He's just working with what he can. Hatchery is also going to be weakened once again, even if it doesn't get canceled this time. Are we going to have that Cyclone follow-up? Yes, indeed we will. The build that Maru won on, he will be doing it again. Solar did struggle a little bit at this portion of the game, but don't forget that he had to cancel a hatchery. That really put him off his build, because he also got supply blocked. In this case, while he had to delay his hatchery, at least it's still kind of according to plan, just an improvised plan. Not a, oh shit plan. Reapers might get surrounded as well. Grenades coming down to try and stop that from happening. Kind of working out here. Maybe 4 Reapers can survive. Make that 3, make that 2, make that 0. No hop-up on there, so Maru is going to lose every single one. That is quite disappointing. That is the anti-Ling measure when combined with the Marines and Cyclones and eventually Hellions that made this particular army we're about to see here so safe out on the map. And then if Solar did make enough units to conquer it, there's a good chance that it wouldn't really be cost-effective for him for the amount of drones they didn't build. But now 5 less Reapers, there's not that synergy happening anymore. It's very possible that Maru just kind of doesn't even aggress as much with this particular set of units. And he's certainly keeping the Marines at home. But 2 Hellions, 2 Cyclones, definitely something that, 20 Lings could get us around on easily. Although, I don't know if they're in chunks. Overlord's gonna die, but this might be a bit of an overreach. Reinforcing Lings, just a little late to the party, but they're here now. Another Overlord also in the sights. The first one did not die. This one will also not die, and there's the surround on both the Cyclones and the Hellions. One Hellion might live to tell the tale, but Solar has improved his defense at every step of this build order. Compared to that first game, there's not nearly as much of that very slow, small snowballing, but nonetheless snowballing. This is much better for Solar, who also has been able to creep spread pretty well because he's been dealing with more forward attacks, attempts on his Overlord's life, or attempts on his hatchery, so the creep spread isn't the target. That Overlord will finally die, at the very least, as the follow-up drop is not full, but it is at least something to get back onto the map. Creep also denied, although very temporarily. And it is better to have something, even if it's not a totally complete package of drop. Lair is almost done for Solar. He went for the 1-1 upgrade. Carapace a little bit faster, and a Baneling Nest also is on the way as that 4th base is finally actually underway. Maru's 3rd CC has been scouted. He will take care of that Ling, of course, and it is going to be the 8 Rax follow-up that he did versus Scarlet. Oh, no. Wait, no. Wait, what? No, it's 5 Rax. It's okay. It tricked me. I saw a 3rd Rax. Okay, anyway. So it was going to be initially 5 racks, but here we go. There they are. There they are. There's the additional barracks. Yes, it will be that follow-up aggression. Very momentum-based. Can get some abusive positions with some nice tanks. Once we actually have them on the field. Okay, we already have 1. Getting 2. And Solar might know this is on the way. He was most likely watching the game with Maru versus Scarlet, trying to get a feel for what Maru would be possibly playing like, in case he did lose his preliminary match, of course. Where are you going to attack into? So if the drops can clear out the creep of the position that you're going to abuse with your tanks, that's the best way to do this, right? But where is that on Oceanborn? I did notice this kind of high ground that you can fall back to when trying to attack this hatchery, but the tanks would never get in close range of the hatchery to shell away. It would just be a fallback point. Let's see, what else? I mean, this, you can get a partial surround from the Zerg, but it's pretty choky. Down here could be quite abusive. That actually, it's pretty good. But I'm not sure. Drop off to the right. Move out was trying to hit into the middle, but it's really not a move out quite yet. Solar at some point gets a plat blocked. When that happens. He's got Hydras on the way. Certificate Cloak's already done, and 2-2 has started up here as Maru is late to his 2-2. You do still get your double upgrades with this build. You just don't have the second factory or fast 4th. Solar is in a pretty fine position, as he is pretty quick to replacing his creep spread as well. Maru really not making any advancements in that department. And if this were to be the place that he abused, I would expect him to have moved his drop over here. As he has not, there's a decent amount of creeps where he has to clean up first. I guess the problem with moving over here is that you do have to go through here first. Yeah, this is rocks need to be broken. But that is his plan. I did say this is a bit choky. He could eventually make his way over even to abusing this choke, obviously cutting off this base as well. And no matter where he tried to push, the creep was being replaced pretty quickly. But this is the push. Liberator harassment off to the right side as well is doing some amount of damage, and that hatchery is basically a goner. Solar is almost maxed out. He's going to have +2 Carapace in approximately 30 seconds. This is not a bad break, as he also gets a bit of a surround setup. Having to go through this choke is a bit brutal, but not enough tanks actually abusing that particular choke. These ones not properly protected, get surrounded by the Lings. Baneling still crashing forward. Now back on a creep they go. The tank trying to fire, doesn't know where to fire. And the Marines are all desperately trying to split to survive, but they are forced to be picked up. Liberator also got included. I think that might have been F2, but it did kill 14 drones, I believe. First, well, something killed 14 drones. Hatchery did get killed as well. And the creep spread is still gone, which is the good news for Maru's follow-up, but he did not take the best possible fight. There definitely would have been better ways to take it if he had known exactly how Solar was about to position, but we do have sight blockers going through here. Very, very, very aggressive Marines. Go for a couple of snipes and then force to pick up. Solar now able to get his queens on the front line to get some replanting of that creep. Maybe not very much, and actually some of them are going to go down with a lot of transfuses too. Barely onto that creep, so a little bit more time, but better than nothing. But then the AI is starting to work against Solar a little bit there, as Maru is very insistent on abusing this high ground platform. Remember, he is only on 3 bases. He actually never started 2-2. I guess what he actually intentionally is doing is producing more Liberators, but he started 2-2 versus Scarlet, which is why I was pretty convinced he would. Now he's just straight up behind by 2 upgrades, and certainly not going to hit any powerful 3-3 timing attack in this game. I cannot see that happening. So Solar has got the supply. He's got some decent creep spread, really, for the situation. He's got a run-by going, and he's got those upgrades, and this run-by is going to decimate Maru's economy. The Liberator could not stop that. Very wise of Solar to take that and abandon his 3rd, or his 4th, actually. Now, this is a little scary. This is the potential domino that leads into the collapse of further dominoes, as now the natural choke is being abused by the Terran. But the Terran is even more all-in than he was before. 15 SCVs went down. Still no upgrades on the way. Solar, at least now getting into technology, is upgrades and technology and a good supply, although the army supply is pretty much identical. Only 2 tanks as well, not the most impressive amount of AoE, and the Liberator doesn't necessarily help all that much against Ling Baneling, kind of depends on the situation. That's a lot more Ling Baneling Hydra on the backside, about to catch reinforcements, or at least it could. It might just go for the surround instead. That 3rd tank would be so freaking helpful for Maru, but he is on the ropes, and Solar is about to go in for the kill. His 3rd tank won't even be siege, and a lot of this is going to be off of creep, but some of it will not, and this just might be too much Zerg anyway. The Liberator is taken out by the Queens and Hydras, the Marines taken out by the Lings and Banelings, and the Hydras clean up the medevacs, and Solar, when he most needed it, will defeat his nemesis in the loser's match of GSL Group A, and he will get a shot at advancing to the round of 8 by taking on Scarlet in the decider match in the ZVZ. Good time for Solar. Good time to actually win against Maru after a 4-loss streak. And well played. Maru, not, yeah, his 2 racks opener into 3CC, 8 racks aggression didn't really have as much bite as you would expect from the GSL 7-time winner or whatever he is. Might just be getting some of the maps more felt out, or I don't know. Maybe the patch really was good for Zerg. Whatever it was good for the Zergs today. Now let's see which Zerg will advance. Will it be Scarlet or will it be Solar to join Creator in the round of 8? It's the decider match of GSL Group A. In the top right of Alcyone, it is Solar. In the bottom left, it is Scarlet. It all comes down to this. Scarlet was on the brink of making it out first. She was up 1-0 versus Creator in the winner's match, and unfortunately lost the next 2 matches. Fortunate for the Protoss and Creator fans out there, though. Solar, in a surprising twist, did lose to Creator, someone he had a comfortable win record against, but then was able to take down a nemesis in the form of Maru, again, when he most needed to. Now he faces Scarlet in a ZVZ, a classic scenario, storyline. The foreigner ZVZ versus the Korean. Typically, the Korean is aggressive, but Scarlet is not European. She is North American with a heavy dose of Korean in her blood, basically. Not actually, but basically. Because she's lived in Korea, she practices with Koreans, she has been on the international stage versus Koreans, probably not more than a lot of our players currently now, but still, like, her history is just full of it as one of the standout foreigners of a time past in StarCraft 2. So she also can be very aggressive, is what I'm trying to get at. Now, as far as knowing how each other play in the matchup, now that's a whole different ballgame, because they would usually be practicing against each other, because again, she lives in Korea and so does Solar, but the amount of times that you actually get practice in ZVZ is pretty low across the regions. Zerg does not represent a lot of the GM and Pro in the regions. So you have that, then you have the barcode issue, like do they actually know they're facing each other? And then you just have a lot of volatility in the matchup, because they can get kind of screwy, like we're seeing here. And very action-packed, which can lead to disasters, forced errors more than a passive macro game. And there's a lot of, wanting to hide your builds, and maybe not even practicing for ZBZs either, because you don't have that many Zergs in GSL, so you're like, well, I probably won't face Solar. I'll probably face Maru, and then hopefully Creator, and then that's it, right? Or the opposite for a Solar, so it can get really wacky real quick. But Scarlet is clearly the one pushing the wackiness here. She has mined out the little mineral patch to access the gold base. Solar's Overlord Not able to see the creep spread by the time it moved past. Yeah, it would have gone all the way over here. But his Ling will. His Ling absolutely will. That little improvement, that little change from a passive setup where you don't scout at all with Lings to just that little bit has really changed the dynamic of this game. Pretty early scout. Of course, Scarlet knows she scouted. Now she has to try and do something. The good news is when you have a gold base, yeah, you could macro better, sure, but then more often than not, it's going to be that you are saturated faster with less drones to then build a whole heck of a lot of army. Now, Scarlet with 24 drones actually has more than her opponent, funnily enough, as Solar scouted this so quickly, decided to all in it very quickly as well. But that means that she can maybe lose a couple of drones and then still have a superior economy. But at this point in time, it really is about the fact that she just is, weirdly enough... I mean, not weirdly enough, but she is choosing to go for more macro. And as such, she is not building army. She needs to build army. Unfortunately, despite getting the gold, she also still has more drones. She did not go ultra aggressive off of that gain in the early game like some other Zergs would have. She did add on the third hatch. She did add on more drones. And that might kill her. As Solar is building roaches, perhaps she was trying to read into her opponent. Solar, not necessarily known as the most cheesy, aggressive Zerg, even as a Korean player. But she was wrong if that's what she was hoping for. Scarlet is now in a lot of trouble, trying to defend this base against roaches, even as she does break down the rock. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult. Her roach warren was much later. Her roach is only just now popping out. Her Lings losing the Ling battle. Now Lings of her opponent in the main base. Roaches on her natural, if you will. And Scarlet is in a whole heck of a lot of trouble. This plan has not worked out thus far. Solar, with such a fast scout on it, and decisive build order choice as well, going, yep, just gonna all in it. Combined with Scarlet macroing more than, well, clearly she ought to have had she known Solar was going to do this. It's combined together to make it a very quick and easy win for Solar as he dominates this gold base, takes it out of the equation, still has technically a 2-base Scarlet to face against his own 2 bases, and the drone count is still even. I said Scarlet had a couple that she could give away. but Solar also has the army supply advantage, and that means that Scarlet is going to tap out. Yep, GG. Always fun to see some creativity with the new maps, and gold bases are just asking for this to happen. But in that case, you know, she kind of chose one of the less chosen options, probably, which is to macro with the gold base. I would probably say like 70% of the time you see that, it's more so they can just get an all-in off of less drones. But unfortunately, she chose the choice that she did here. And good news for Solar, whose immediate aggression has really paid off. And now we head into game 2 with Scarlet on her last life. Solaris will be our potential final map of this GSL group. In the bottom left, she is down 1. It's Scarlet. In the top right, it is Solar. I don't think we've seen Solaris at all in this GSL group. There's a couple of maps we haven't seen. As a reminder, we do have 9 maps in the map pool, so more vetoes to be done in the best of 3. On all the best ofs, obviously. Whether or not this will actually encourage more map diversity, I feel like it's still up in the air. You know, if it's still just the same 5 maps that are basically agreed upon to be the most well-balanced, I feel like we're just going to still see mostly the same 3 maps, since best of 3 is the most popular best of. But we'll see, we'll see. I still like it, just to be clear. I mean, I still think the more possibilities, the better. We've got a pull first coming out from Scarlet, with the gas coming down as well. Looks like this time around she is going to be aggressive. Maybe not super aggressive, but she will have faster Lings here. Which, yeah, you know, if she had just gone off of 22 drones with a gold base, she would have had a superior economy and the same timing of building army as Solar. And that's why sometimes you don't see the person... Well, I mean, you can't not do anything against the gold-based person, but you sometimes see the not gold-based person be more on the defense, and it's like a tug-of-war, and then the gold base might become more of a burden as the tug-of-war starts to kind of collapse. But anyway, that was just straight up one person made army faster, another person didn't. But now Scarlet might actually be aggressive. We'll see if this forms in anything. As I said, faster Ling currently, but it's, you know, this is just a pull first and a gas first. Could just be for faster speed. Turn this into a Ling Baneling all in. Possibly. Ooh. Might be exactly it. But the first couple of Lings won't be doing too much damage. They will reveal to Solar that Scarlet went for a pool first. But Solar will know. In fact, did he already know? Yeah, he already saw the hatchery. Already knows, isn't totally dedicated. It's just what is the follow-up? Ah, an evolution chamber's coming in here. That's where the gas is gonna go. Alright. Well, Solar task now to decide what is on the way. Does grab a rather safe Baneling nest. Absolutely. Scarlet continuing to drone, waiting for the evolution chamber to finish up here. Should not be allowing these Lings in to get that scout. Oh no! Oh, they were not scout, actually. What they scouted was consistent drone production, which is nice, although that could have been a fake, actually. Those were popped drones, but it also could have been a fake, which would have been really clever, but not, not what we're talking about in this game. It is that fast +1 melee started up. Her Lings will be superior. Solar seems to be building a decent amount. I mean, kind of testing the waters, like prodding to see what is actually happening. It's going to be warranted here, especially as that third hatch comes down a little bit later than his own. It's like, okay, what have you fit in that I'm not privy to? Very possibly an evolution chamber with fast +1 melee. Very possibly. Absolutely. Not going to be in effect in this game, though, for another minute, and Solar's attack is already hitting Scarlet's own Ling production, a little delayed, and she is supply blocked, not playing her optimal ZVZ at this point, because I don't even think that was waiting for the third hatch to finish. That hatchery still had a ways to go. So that was just it kind of seemed like an unforced error. Very unfortunate time to have that happen. Your last life in a ZVZ. Solar not even really dedicating all that much to this pressure. This is not an uncommon amount of Lings, although the Baneling numbers are becoming more uncommon and more aggressive. Good control from Solar, stopping that Baneling from popping off. Spinecrawler is on the way. You can tell that Scarlet knows that she's in trouble. Good focus fire on the Banelings from her, but two still get through into the drone line and onto some of the reinforcements. Queens get taken down, and Solar is going to win long before that +1 melee is done. Now, of course, producing nothing but Lings. He realizes he's winning, but this is not, as I said, an abnormal kind of pressure in ZVZ. Scarlet's supply block really was quite killer. And some mistakes on the micro, perhaps, as well. And unfortunately, that is going to be it. Very quick 2-0 in Solar's favor. A lot of Scarlet fans very disappointed with this result, of course, but Solar, an excellent Zerg player, will advance on to the round of 8 with Creator, still completing a different expected result. You know, like, Solar would have been one of my guesses to make it through, but obviously Maru would have been the other one. Not at all what happened. But yeah, good job, Solar. And now the only non-Korean, I believe, left in GSL is Estrella. I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. So, good luck to him. Scarlet will have to try again next year. Hopefully there will be a GSL next year. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the cast, even though it was delayed. Group B will be coming up as soon as possible for me as well. And hopefully Group C and D and all that will be a little more well-timed, as I'm now accustomed to the setup in Korea. Fixed my computer, which was a bit broken. Got the internet up, and got the replays and all the good stuff. So, hopefully a little bit speedier next time. Thanks all. Please like, subscribe, watch, blah, 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 and I'll see you later. Bye!